Chapter 1278. Time slipped away as time passed. A few years in a short period, a decade in a short period, a century in a short period. But in reality, it was not that long. 76 years had passed since the resonance of the timeline and the arrival of countless worlds. Compared to the entire history of the void and the time of the heavenly gods, these two-digit years were pitifully short and negligible. However, after 76 years, the void was still as lively as ever. 2 years ago, it had just reached its climax, and the climax had yet to come to an end. Some worlds had caused conflicts after they descended, and they fought day and night. Finally, there was a situation where the upper echelons of the world had a decisive battle. With the mentality of mutual destruction, dozens of worlds were buried in the void. That was what everyone saw, and that was what they thought. In fact, those dozens of worlds were thrown to other places by the combined forces of Yunua Planet and the Little Angel, who were watching the battle, and they were taken away without anyone knowing. The decades of war in the void had ushered in the most chaotic period due to the decisive battle between the upper echelons of several worlds. Like a chain reaction, decisive battles broke out one after another, with both sides suffering losses and destruction. It was hard to imagine that the parties involved in these fierce battles did not know each other 100 years ago, but after squeezing into the same world, an equally infinite world, they suddenly clashed without end and would not stop until one side was completely annihilated. The loss of the entire void. In fact, the loss of a few worlds was insignificant to the entire world and the entire Order faction. There were very few Empyrean gods of origin, with only 4 or 5 of them appearing in an ordinary world of light. But in the entire void, there were suddenly countless voids in the world of light, and at this point the Empyrean gods of origin were as numerous as the hairs on a cow. It looked like they were gathered together, but in fact, when divided evenly across the entire void, the number of Empyrean gods of origin was still pitifully small. Looking away, aside from the chaos in the void, a strange creation had appeared in the void, connecting all the world orbs in the void passage. It was said that the inspiration came from the world group. When a huge world orbs came together, there would be a thread connecting them to form a huge structure. The world orbs would no longer wander alone in the void. The huge structure formed by countless world orbs was the world group. And then, the guy who made the void passage had an idea when he saw the thread. It was actually turning the thread from illusory to solid, directly connecting the nearby world orbs directly. From then on, even if one could not cross the void with their own power, they could use the void passage to cross the world orbs. After the invention of the void passage, many worlds were connected in a short period of time. It was a result of the combined power of the beings and races in each world. Although there was still a meaningless battle going on above, the worlds were already connected before anyone could react. From that day on, crossing the void to other world orbs was no longer a privilege for the post-gods. Things that happened outside the top level also became more interesting. Even if some worlds were hostile, there were many beings coming and going between them. After all, those hostile relationships were the affairs of the higher-ups. Although there was only a small number of Empyrean gods and a little more Empyrean gods in the entire world orb, there were a lot of basic beings. Those who were not the masters of the world were the actual masters of those worlds. The former understood this, and so did not get rid of the void passage. The realm of the gods was still lively. After all, that was a daily life in the realm of the gods as well as in the void. 76 years had passed, and many outsiders had arrived in the realm of the gods. However, as the realm of the gods was nearing unification, after 1,000 years of fighting in the middle planes with the Guardians, those absolute beings of the upper echelons had basically formed a battle line. Sometimes, the disciples and elders of some transcendental factions would fight amongst themselves, while their primogenitors and hierarchs would sit around drinking tea and chatting merrily. What they meant was that it was just a small squabble between the younger generation, so it was fine as long as nothing happened. They, the old ones, had to guard against more powerful enemies. Lord Maple, half of the worlds in the Middle Plains have already been notified. They're all at the front lines, and quite a number of them have sensibly joined forces in the middle planes to guard against the abyssal death mist. Through their announcements to other worlds, things should be much faster in the future, but there are still many worlds that don't know about it. Oh, what I mean is, they know about the abyssal death mist, but they don't know much about it. Those fellows in the upper planes are busy with their civil wars, but I don't believe that they really don't know about that thing in the middle planes. Moreover, they definitely saw the void seal that sealed off the middle and upper planes. It's just that those people are still busy with their civil wars, so they don't know about it at all. As expected, it's not that they can't keep their spirits up when they see the danger in front of them, right? Kid, let me tell you something more realistic. Even if some people know that the abyssal death mist is a disaster, even if they know that there will be a day when they have to go to war with that thing, for example, there's still 1,000 days before the war starts, they would definitely use the 999 days to do something irrelevant. On the last day, they would urgently meet the battle and then collapse on the second day. Not even ashes would be left behind under the attack of the abyssal death mist. Green grinned. I think I've already met those people. Not long ago, when I came out of the Huia continent, the Origin Master there seemed to have such an attitude. I just don't know if he's pretending or... Apart from that, there's a lot of interesting things. Hee, Lord Fong, you'll definitely be interested. I've already sent them to you. Also, 10 years ago, we discovered the distorted life form you mentioned, but we lost all contact 5 years ago. There's still no result at the moment, but we can be sure that your guess is right. There's definitely a life form in the void, and their life form is called distorted. We're still looking for it, but we still haven't found anything. These fellows with special missions also wandered the luminous orbs of various worlds, occasionally participating in the battles of the origin gods. Putting it nicely, they were just having some fun with the origin gods of other worlds. Perhaps they would gain something, but I Ching knew that the fellow whose mind was filled with the idea of recklessly traversing the void was just itching for something to do. After all, the high-tier Empyrean gods of origin produced by the realm of gods would be a disaster for the current void war. I Ching added, there are some worlds that do have things worth seeing. The luminous orb I just left had many living lands connected together. One of them was even intercepted by the life forms of other worlds when he was trying to break through to the Empyrean god of origin. However, that was a unified world, and he managed to resist the attack with the power of the entire world. In that world, there was a pinnacle Empyrean god of origin who tried to break through to the primeval stage. He failed. The laws of the void slapped him so hard that he almost dropped his realm. Yin Nuoxing looked at the two images in front of him. Today was the day of regular communication. He was listening to I Ching and Qing Jun's reports, and, at the same time, using this information to determine the situation in the void that might or might not be important. Speaking of which, this regular communication had already been in place since he took over the realm of gods. However, 20 years ago, when Hui woke up, he emphasized this to I Ching and Qing Jun. The purpose was to prevent Yin Nuoxing from sitting in a certain place for 100 million years and forgetting about him. In any case, when I Ching tattled on him, he was speechless. The little angel beside him was laughing so hard that his wings were cramping. That's right. Lord Fong, that brat I Ching has finally reached the mid-tier of origin. Qing Jun suddenly laughed out loud, causing I Ching, who was in the image next to him, to look embarrassed. He had only said a few words to I Ching and did not think about reporting it. After all, it was just a small matter. Lord Fong had to keep an eye on the battle situation in the void, so how could he have the time to care about such a small matter? Oh, not bad. You finally reached the mid-tier. Yin Nuoxing nodded and smiled faintly. Both I Ching and Qing Jun were stunned. This reaction was a little beyond their imagination. However, a young man is still a young man. His realm has gone up, but his experience and state of mind have not yet reached that level. You are the youngest Empyrean god of origin I have ever seen. There are still many things about you that have not reached this realm. Do not be complacent. You will not be considered an immortal until time washes over you to a certain extent. Yin Nuoxing immediately said in a deep voice, I Ching hurriedly cupped his hands and said, I understand. Yin Nuoxing waved his hand. He had been paying attention to this young, Empyrean god of origin for some time. Of course, it was because of Hui. After all, he seemed to take good care of the young man. There must be a reason why he was able to become an Empyrean god of origin so early. However, he did not intend to look into it. After all, it was someone else's business. As long as it did not affect the realm of gods, he would not look into it. What's the situation over at the Abyssal Death Mist? Both I Ching and Qing Jun, who were still smiling and staring blankly a moment ago, instantly retracted their expressions and became calm, serious, and solemn. Qing Jun said, I have inspected 1/3 of the area within the void blockade line. The Abyssal Death Mist is not moving at all. However, there are still some uneasy auras surging in the lower planes. There are many more distorted creations in the void. Combined with what I know before, I believe that those are new worlds that have been attacked. We still haven't discovered those worlds that are very far away before the underworld. The middle plane. It's very far away from the area where the void is concentrated. This area has expanded a lot, and it took me some time to reach the border between the sealing circle and the abyssal death shroud. After extending the sealing circle's range, I only found a small portion of the world lights and couldn't see much more. However, logically speaking, the place I went to should still have world lights, and after I checked, I found that there were indeed world lights in that area of the void. Perhaps they have suffered some disaster. Yin Nuoxing muttered. The underworld's actions seemed to be resonating with the timeline. Many worlds in the timeline fused together and sped up a little. They still could not find a way to stop the underworld from moving. They could only watch as they moved bit by bit. It was not that the world of order did not change at all. I Ching and Qing Jun were also speeding up, trying their best to mentally prepare all the worlds before the underworld launched a large-scale operation. After a moment, he sighed. It was still very difficult. Both of them heard his sigh and sighed softly. There was still a long way to go. After the report, Yin Nuoxing fell silent. Sitting on a meteorite in the starry sky of a world, he stretched his legs and sighed lazily. The figure of the little angel appeared beside him. Both of her hands were holding a ball of brilliant golden energy the size of a wash basin. It was the concentrated divine power. It was so concentrated that it was a little abnormal. In the real world, the existence of this ball of energy alone could seriously distort the void, time, space, and rules. Is this report over? Did something big happen in the void recently? She sat down beside him and hugged him with one of her wings. Then, she handed the ball of energy over. Here, this is the amount for this time. Yin Nuoxing took the ball of divine power that had condensed into a solid form. She tossed it up and down in her hand. A dark red energy appeared in her eyes. The energy flowed into the ball of energy. The dark red energy could be seen dissolving into water like a pigment. Gradually, the ball of energy was dyed dark red. Then, the ball of dark red energy shrank into a mysterious dark red rune in the ball of light. Threads of energy spread out from the ball of light. It seemed to have completely connected the ball of divine power with itself. After the creation was completed, Yin Nuoxing tossed the ball of energy up and down like a ball. Then, she threw it into the void and disappeared. The little angel looked at the few steps. The symbol that appeared in the ball of divine power was different from the one they made in the lower plane. She looked at Yin Nuoxing and asked, How many more do we have to set up? Yin Nuoxing tilted his head and stretched out his hand to count with his fingers. Well, actually, this action was completely useless. He thought for a moment and said, There are less than 2,000 left. But, no matter how many we set up, these things will not be enough. No matter how much we prepare, it will not be enough. When that day comes, the little angel stared at him. She leaned her head on his shoulder and sighed softly. They already knew the outcome of the war before it even started. Only the two of them in the entire void knew about it. Those in the underworld might also know about it. However, they probably knew about it because they were confident in their own power. On the other hand, they already knew the outcome. Even so, they did not directly give up the struggle. Or rather, it was because they knew the outcome that they would rebel even more crazily. They wanted to see a different outcome, wanted to see if there was another outcome. So, in the 76 years of their journey, both of them had been setting up those things. That was the proof of their resistance, and this world would know about it. In those 76 years, they had also witnessed many things in the void. They had gone to the lower plane and saw many broken world balls of light before them. They also saw many nameless, gigantic corpses being swallowed by the void. What happened here had long been settled. It was an ending in history. The scene repeated many times because they had seen it so many times that they were no longer surprised. The only thing that surprised them was that ever since they noticed that the approaching footsteps of the void turbulence had destroyed their distorted creations, they could not see those things anymore. They did not know if they were all destroyed or something else. After leaving the ball of energy in the void, Yin Nuoxing pulled Little Angel to her feet. Let's go to the next place to play. Little Angel could not help but grumble. So, bringing me to those places you chose to inspect and set things up counts as playing too. No, Yin Nuoxing smiled and shook her head. 80% of them were chosen by you. Then, she took Little Angel's hand. Anyway, it's all about playing. You're the happiest when you're on your own. Have you forgotten? The little angel lowered its head and grumbled. That idiot had accompanied it out to play with half of the purpose. Little Angel knew that very well. But that was enough. Little Angel thought it through and could not help but smile. All right, where are we going next? The void before them was indeed not a good place to play. Little Angel only regretted that she did not meet him when they were at a bottleneck. Right now, the two of them were holding hands as they traveled the void. That was enough. Let me think about it. Yin Nuoxing replied and pulled Little Angel into the void. After a moment of silence, she suddenly said, "Why don't we go back to the realm of the gods to play?" Little Angel was stunned for a moment. Aren't there still 2,000? Well, there's still a part that hasn't been completed. But personally, I don't think it's a big problem. As for that part, I want to go back and think about it. This level might not be enough, but there's no point in just thinking about it. The realm of the gods is the first realm. Before we left, a large number of people had gathered there because of its reputation or came to challenge us. After leaving for a few years, it should be more lively there. Looking at other things might give us some inspiration. Yin Nuoxing said. Little Angel could not help but laugh bitterly when she heard this level might not be enough. She did not know what level the level was, but every rune, both of them needed to rest for a while after each rune was set up. Before the next setup, they needed to recover to their peak condition. Along the way, they had set up an astronomical number of runes, but there was indeed a risk that it would not be enough. After all, there were at least 12 primeval gods. It was no wonder that Little Angel would say that no matter how prepared they were, it would not be enough. Little Angel thought for a moment, turned around, and clung to Little Angel. Up to you. I'll go wherever you take me. Yin Nuoxing smiled. Then let's go back and have a look. It's been a while since we went back. I wonder if we has woken up. Chapter 1279. Dozens of years had passed, and countless powerful beings had descended upon the celestial realm, bringing about a huge impact. This immediately attracted the attention of countless people. Almost every being in the celestial realm was paying attention to this matter. Even if the extraterrestrial visitors did not bring destruction, there were still countless people who were worried, panicked, and worried that a disaster would descend upon the celestial realm. However, these worries were all dispelled when the Empyrean gods returned. The panic in the celestial realm lasted for less than 3 days before it calmed down. It was probably the shortest large-scale panic in history. There was not even a riot. The Empyrean gods, who did not have the time to take advantage of the weak defense of the celestial realm, were immediately restrained. It did not matter if they were planning to abuse their power or if they were here for a pilgrimage. It was always a relief to have some Empyrean gods remaining in the celestial realm. After all, even ordinary people knew about the chaos in the void. Even if they were far away from the void, it did not prevent them from knowing about it. The Empyrean gods of the celestial realm rarely fought, as they were more busy with matters in the void. That's right, after they returned, some of them left, and on the day of their return, they caused a huge commotion. It was all to announce to the other extraterrestrial visitors that the celestial realm was still overseeing the celestial realm. Well, although it was just a facade, it did make the celestial realm calmer than other places in the void to some extent. If 2 or 3 Empyrean gods of origin were allowed to come out for a stroll, it would basically guarantee that no major disaster would befall the celestial realm. The affairs of the upper echelons were the affairs of the upper echelons. The outsiders and the upper echelons of the celestial realm would not casually start a war for no reason. Currently, the most lively group was still the younger generation. Oh, that was nonsense. That age group had always been overly lively. They only needed to slowly grow up and did not need to care too much about the trivial matters of the void. There was still time now, and their strength might be needed in the future. Since the last time Lord Observer spread the news through I Ching and Qing Jun's mouths, the divine gods who saw the boys from the outer realm stirring up trouble in the divine realm thought about it and decided not to bother with them. They allowed them to stir up trouble in the divine realm, and then they were pinned to the ground by the younger generation of the divine realm to teach them a lesson. It was a very lively scene. Those young guys came to the divine realm with the divine god from the outer realm. They also knew the name of the first major world of the divine realm. But after all, they were still too young, like newborn calves who were not afraid of tigers. They had not yet tasted the other side of the divine realm, so naturally, they were not in awe of this world like their elders. For them, it seemed like they had just changed a place to play and fight. Then they were pressed to the ground and taught a lesson. From then on, the divine realm was left with a lingering shadow in their hearts. Yin Noashing and the little angel had not been back for long. After asking around a little, they learned about the recent happenings in the divine realm. However, they were not very interested in what they heard, so they left that place. Just as they were about to go back and check on Huey's situation, they encountered something that concerned him. A race that had been destroyed in the divine realm had actually reappeared in the divine realm. However, they had come here as outsiders. He couldn't help but think for a moment. Pulling the little angel with him, he hurriedly caught up with the few young guys who were still very young. Little guys in front, wait a moment. The few young men and women were also taken aback when they were suddenly stopped. After sensing the energy that was completely impossible to categorize and identify from the other party's body, they all quieted down a little. A man walked up solemnly. "Senior, may I know what you're looking for? You're members of the Void Spirit tribe?" Yin Oshing swept her gaze over the few people and asked very straightforwardly. The few of them were also slightly taken aback. The characteristics of their tribe were very troublesome to explain, but one of their characteristics was that they were basically unrecognizable. Regardless of whether it was the difference in cultivation base or other special characteristics, it was very difficult to sense. This was because their tribe was extremely compatible with the laws of nature. They were able to merge their existence with the laws of nature, making it difficult for people to distinguish which was which. If one were to look too deeply into it, they would only be confusing themselves. The fact that this person in front of them was able to identify their tribe at a glance meant that he must have known members of this tribe before. Furthermore, their relationship with them should be quite deep. With this in mind, the few of them relaxed a little. The man cupped his hands in a serious manner. "Yes, Senior, may I know who you are?" Yin Nuashin gave soft, "Oh," in response. "I know a few old guys from the Void Spirit tribe. However, they've already passed away a long time ago. There's no longer any trace of the Void Spirit tribe in the realm of the gods. I didn't think that I'd be able to see members of the Void Spirit tribe again." As she spoke, she took out a purple bead from her pendant. There was even a small triangle inside it. She placed it in the young man's hand. "This is what they left behind. All right, it's been returned to its rightful owner. It's time to let bygones be bygones." Just by hearing this, they were a little doubtful and a little skeptical. However, when they saw the purple bead with a triangle embedded in it, the few Void Spirit tribe youths were all startled. Sorrow appeared on their faces. That was the symbol of their tribe. This meant that this person's words were 80% true. The Void Spirit tribe in the realm of the gods had already, after they calmed down a little, Yinhuashing learned from them that the Void Spirit tribe wasn't an original tribe that was born in the realm of the gods. Instead, they came from the void. They were visitors from an upper plane of the origin world. However, they had arrived a very long time ago. It could be traced back to the early stages of this era. The Void Spirit tribe of the past never returned. Many years later, they finally sent back news that they had settled down in the realm of the gods. That was how this tribe came to be. The Void Spirit tribe knew the name of the first great world. However, they didn't know its specific location. Thus, they had never been able to find it. Currently, many people from a void were heading to the realm of the gods, and they had found this place. However, they didn't expect that too much time had passed. The Void Spirit tribe and his tribe had the world where the Void Spirit tribe lived was relatively weak. Perhaps that ancestor had some misgivings, so he didn't move his entire tribe here. The man's mood was a little gloomy as he sighed. Looking at the current situation, perhaps his misgivings were correct. Even the entire Void Spirit tribe had become a thing of the past in the realm of the gods. If you want to take a look at the place where the Void Spirit tribe once lived. Yinhuashing pointed into the distance. Go straight in this direction, and you'll see a massive palm print. The palm print branded into the ground is right there. After saying this, Yinhuashing disappeared on the spot with the little angel. The Void Spirit tribe youngsters cupped their fists in salute toward the direction he had disappeared. They looked at each other and changed their original direction. Instead, they headed in the direction Yinhuashing had pointed. Did this tribe really exist in the realm of the gods? High up in the sky, the little angel looked at the departing group. Then, she turned to him with a curious expression. Yinhuashing nodded. They did exist. They were a very mysterious tribe in the realm of the gods. They were already a tribe when I met them. That Void Spirit tribe might have arrived in the realm of the gods much earlier than I thought. How'd they get wiped out in the end? At the mention of this, he fell silent for a moment. Then, he rubbed his bangs and said, I don't remember clearly. I think that tribe was wiped out because of something. They were wiped out by the combined forces of several other forces. As for who did it, I don't really remember. Looks like it really was a long time ago. He doesn't really remember this. The little angel shrugged. Judging from his attitude toward those people, they probably weren't very close friends. Well, there was no point in worrying about that. On top of a small mountain, Yinhuashing and the others had left this place for 76 years. When they returned, they found that there was a golden cocoon hanging in the air of this hidden space. Silk threads extended from the cocoon and finally connected to the incongruous building. Two kinds of energy were emitted from the cocoon. One was the energy of the guardian, and the other was the energy of his observer. Both of them were related to the realm of the gods. When they returned to this space and saw the fat cocoon, both of them were slightly stunned. They looked at the fat cocoon and then looked at the building along the silk threads. Then, they looked at each other. Although they didn't know what the fat cocoon was for, they thought that it should have something to do with the sleeping guardian. Also, it probably had something to do with him, Yinhuashing. Gently pushing open the door of the building, both of them sneakily poked their heads in. What they saw was Hui, who was still sleeping on the bed. The silk threads of the fat cocoon were indeed connected to his body. Yinhuashing waved his hand and walked forward boldly. Without even looking at the guy lying on the bed, he raised his hand and slapped him without saying a word. Slap! The crisp sound of the slap made the little angel close his eyes. His body and wings trembled. When he opened his eyes, he saw his palm on Huey's face. His cheeks couldn't help but twitch. Well, it seems that this guy hasn't woken up yet. Yinhuashing nodded. When he saw the stunned look on the little angel's face, he couldn't help but smile. It's okay. Let's say hello and see if that guy's dead. It seems that he's still alive and well. The little angel's eyebrows twitched. This way of greeting was really unique. But these two guys were really weird. One slept with the other, and the bed didn't seem to be empty at all. After returning to the small mountain, Yinhuashing and the little angel immediately relaxed. They originally planned to walk around the Pantheon realm to see if there were other visitors from the outside world, but they changed their plans after discovering that Hui had made a strange fat cocoon. At the moment, they still didn't know what the fat cocoon that contained the energy of two divine domains in the Pantheon realm was for. We couldn't wake up, so they decided to stay here for a while. Unknowingly, 2 months had passed. The two of them were the only ones moving around in the small mountain. We showed no signs of waking up. The fat cocoon collected a lot of energy every day. Occasionally, it would also collect some energy from the bottom of the Pantheon realm that made Yin Nuoxing's eyes twitch, the origin energy. This was the third type of energy that the fat cocoon collected. After it absorbed the origin energy, there was no movement. No one knew what was happening inside the cocoon, and there was no sign that anything was about to break out of the cocoon. Yin Nuoxing floated in the air with his arms crossed as he looked at the cocoon in front of him. His eyes flashed with a faint silver light as he looked at the scene inside. It was a cloud of chaotic energy with many characters engraved on it. Those characters hurt Yin Nuoxing's eyes when he looked at them. Those were characters from the mythological era. What made him feel speechless was that he couldn't fully recognize those characters. They seemed to be the characters of the first generation of the divine language. After combining with the origin energy, there seemed to be some strange changes. Unfortunately, he couldn't see any changes at all. He spent a lot of effort to deduce, but all he got was a lot of chaotic information. It probably has something to do with Huey's reactivating the protection of the first generation's great deity. This was the conclusion that he came to after observing for 3 days. At this time, Yin Nuoxing's eyes were darting around like a mosquito coil, and some characters of the divine language flew through his mind from time to time. He was completely confused and couldn't make sense of it at all. The only reason he came to this conclusion was because he remembered that he talked to Hui about this before leaving the Pantheon realm. Other than that, he couldn't figure out what that guy was doing at all. After soaking in the lake for a while, Yin Nuoxing floated to the surface of the water and let out a long sigh. That guy was really confusing. He didn't even give him a heads up before doing all this. If it wasn't for the fact that he could feel that Huey's current state was completely normal, he would have thought that that guy had touched some strange thing like him and couldn't wake up. After waking up for a while, Yin Nuoxing floated into the air. He gently raised his right hand and slowly clenched it. The entire sky collapsed at a speed visible to the naked eye. Space, the void, the time barrier, and the primordial realm barrier all collapsed, twisted, and merged into one. After that, a spherical barrier was formed that enveloped this part of the world. Countless mixed and complicated energies fused into this layer of barrier. The sky was distorted, but after the barrier was formed, it slowly returned to its original state. Yin Nuoxing clapped his hands. This barrier, other than him and those guys who suddenly appeared in the void, no one else could break it. He was worried that Hui would suddenly go into seclusion and go into a deep sleep like this. The main reason was that he was worried that Hui would suddenly leave and wouldn't have time to come back to deal with anything. It was better to set up the barrier first so that he could leave the realm of the gods with peace of mind when the time came. With a wave of his hand, the distorted state of the space returned to normal. Yin Nuoxing sat on a huge rock by the lake and raised his head to bask in the sun for a long time. He closed his eyes and was about to take a nap when a loud noise suddenly came from the barrier. He was stunned for a moment. He quickly raised his head and saw a ripple flash by. This made him confirm that something had indeed hit the barrier just now. Which guy has nothing better to do than to attack this place? Yin Nuoxing rolled his eyes. That attack was obviously not powerful enough. However, what made him speechless was that the barrier had just been set up. Why did someone attack it? Boo-hoo. Little star, my door is blocked. I ran into the wall. Boo-hoo, it hurts. My nose is collapsed. Just as he was about to close his eyes and continue to take a nap, a pitiful voice rang out in his mind. He was stunned again and again. He suddenly remembered that his little angel went out to play this morning. So that sound just now was the sound of it hitting the barrier. A drop of cold sweat appeared on Yin Nuoxing's forehead. He laughed dryly and hurriedly ran to the side of the barrier to open it. He saw his little angel rubbing her red little nose. Her golden eyes were filled with tears, and her pair of wings were constantly flapping, as if to tell him how much pain she was in. Well, I closed the door and forgot that you were outside. Yin Nuashing scratched his head and laughed bitterly. When the little angel walked in and heard this, she was stunned for a long time. Her beautiful and wholly pretty face became resentful and unhappy at a speed visible to the naked eye within 3 seconds. She ground her 2 little canine teeth left and right. Yin Nuashing laughed dryly. He closed the door and hugged the little angel in his arms. He kissed her forehead and rubbed her silver-white hair. "All right, it's my fault this time. I was thinking too deeply about things and forgot." Thinking about things? Hearing these 3 words, she suddenly quieted down. The resentment and gloominess on her face disappeared. She asked with concern, "Did I disturb you?" "Not really. It just ended." "Well, if you didn't run into the wall, I would have continued to think about things. However, it's not something that needs to be dealt with right now." Yin Nuashing shook his head and told her about the fat cocoon. "Restart the protection of the great deity of origin," she repeated softly. She looked at the fat cocoon and sighed. Yin Nuashing did not give an answer immediately. Instead, he made another deduction in his heart. After confirming the answer again, he nodded. "At least 1,000 years. This is the lower limit. The upper limit might be 10,000 years. Sigh, I can't say for sure. This matter is even more dangerous than the time-axis resonance. This is something that is done on the basis of the void of the Yuan realm. Moreover, he is disguised as the origin great deity. No, it is as if he is overstepping his authority to do this. Although I already know the outcome, I still have to be honest. This matter might be fatal if it is not handled properly." Seeing his gloomy face as if he was about to let his imagination run wild, the little angel shook her head helplessly. It seemed that if she did not break the door and enter in time, he would indeed fall into a deeper level of wild imagination. After a moment, she remembered the reason why she hurried back. She suddenly jumped up. "All right, I found something interesting. You will definitely be interested in it." "Something interesting?" Yin Nuashing tilted her head. The little angel grinned and said mysteriously, "I found a kind of physique." Yin Nuashing, who was just a little interested, lost interest in an instant. She swung her hand and pulled little angel back. "If you found a physique, then so be it. It's normal that there are physiques that I don't know about in the void. There's nothing to be surprised about. In this life, I'm still immortal. I don't have any special physique, but I still became an observer in the realm of the gods." Little Angel's face was covered in cold sweat. She quickly covered his mouth. "All right, listen to me. You know that physique. I think you will definitely care about it." Yin Nuashing moved her lips and found that she could not speak. She raised her eyebrows and threw a look at Little Angel. "Oh." Little Angel pursed her lips and smiled. She tiptoed and leaned into his arms. Her red lips were close to his ear as she whispered, "The body of the 5 elements. It's the same physique as Sister Xian." Maybe because she had completely put herself in the role of Ming, she unconsciously changed the way she addressed him. Oh, that's not the point. When Yin Nuashing heard those 4 words, he was also stunned. He could not help but think of that beautiful figure in his mind. That dark purple figure had already left such a deep impression in his heart that even when he mentioned something related to her, he could not help but think of her. The little angel smiled and let go of her hand that was covering his mouth. She wrapped her hand around his waist and flapped her wings gently. A pair of golden Mei-Mao eyes looked at him with some kind of conviction. A few minutes later, Yin Nuashing suddenly took a deep breath and slowly exhaled. He looked down and saw Little Angel smiling triumphantly. He shook his head helplessly. "Let's go and have a look." The bright smile on the little angel's face became more and more beautiful. She had already expected him to say that. After discovering and observing the owner of the physique for a while, she quickly flew back. Taiyuan territory. The holy city was called Taiyuan City. It was the holy city in the middle of Taiyuan territory. It was the same as the holy city in the Divine Land. In this era, Xingming City had not been built yet, and the realm of the gods was not as small as it was at that time. At this time, the holy city had temporarily set up a spacious square. There were many people sitting around the square. There were also many people floating in the air because they could not get a seat. On one side of the square, there was a tower-like building. Half of the building's height was a grandstand, which was divided into two sides. Just by looking at this building, what happened here today should not have happened suddenly. It should have been carefully prepared. In fact, it was indeed so. Today, there was a competition in the square. The two sides of the competition should be the people of the realm of the gods and the visitors from the realm of the gods. After all, the visitors from the realm of the gods have been integrated into the realm of the gods since a few decades ago. It was just that they were more erratic and did not have roots in the realm of the gods. Therefore, they were still called visitors from the realm of the gods. There were two figures on the square's battle stage. One was a girl in snow-white clothes. The elemental spirits of the five elements revolved around her. The five-colored light reflected on her graceful body, making her look like an elemental lord. On the other side was a girl. Judging from the surrounding cheers, she seemed to be on the side of the visitors from the realm of the gods. Looking at her tottering appearance, she was almost unable to fight. When Yin Nuoxing and the others arrived, they saw the scene of the battle coming to an end. They directly appeared at the top of the tower. As soon as they stood firm, they saw the scene of the girl in green, clothes slowly falling down. They were stunned for a moment and did not understand what had happened. In terms of physique, the people of the realm of the gods are indeed stronger. Five elements body. This is a legendary physique. TSK. That girl has already won 12 rounds in a row. There should be no need for the competition to continue. I'm just afraid that the other side will not accept it. Speaking of which, wasn't the matter between the two sides already settled? Why did it escalate to the point of fighting on the stage? Who knows what the people from the realm of the gods are thinking? Yin Nuoxing and the little angel looked at each other in confusion and shrugged. After a moment, their gazes fell on the girl in white. Anyway, let's wait and see. Chapter 1280. The battle in the arena did not stop because of the two's arrival. Everyone's eyes were focused on the intense battle in the arena. No one noticed the two figures on the high tower at all. Even the two spectator stands nearby did not notice them. Oh, speaking of the spectator stands, there were a few heavenly gods of origin here. There were 4 or 5 of them on the celestial realm side. He even recognized them. Other than those few people, there were many other heavenly gods sitting there watching the show. Occasionally, they would look at the spectator stands beside them with disdain and ridicule. As for the spectator stands for the visitors from outside the realm, the number of people was pitifully small. There were only 10 people, and 3 of them were youngsters. Oh, there were also those who were lying on the ground, unable to move. There were more than 20 people, including them. Those were the opponents that the white-clothed girl had just thrown out. Right now, there was a battle going on. The visitors from outside the realm sent out a guy who seemed passable. He was actually in the Underworld King realm. Moreover, even though he was in the Underworld King realm, he was still being chased and beaten by the 5-element constitution who was only in the divine Underworld realm. The 5 elements constitution of the divine Underworld realm. Her own 5 elements origin can merge with the elements of heaven and earth and cultivate into the 5 element spirit. You can understand it as the 5 elements origin having their own spirituality. Her affinity and control of the 5 elements is even higher than the divine body of the divine underworld realm. However, that's only the 5 elements energy. Seeing that he was interested in the battle of these little guys, she could not help but poke his face with her finger and teased. "You're also interested in the battle of these little guys?" Yin Nuoxing leaned on the top of the tower with his arms crossed. He was stunned for a moment when he heard that. In his memory, he was used to the exaggerated battles of the higher-ups. At this moment, he occasionally turned back to look at the battle of the little guys. How should he put it? He unexpectedly found interesting. It felt like he was watching a show. Oh, this was too disrespectful to both sides of the battle on the stage. However, he had no choice. He had been immersed in his role. If he was the white-clothed girl, he would have had a chance to end the battle a second ago, but she did not seize it. If he was the underworld king who was being chased away, he would have had a chance half a minute ago. If he seized it, he would have been able to strike back fiercely. After all, He could see that Pluto would definitely lose in 2 minutes, regardless of whether there were any accidents. In just a few breaths of time, the battle in the field was coming to an end as he expected. From the beginning to the end, the girl in white was suppressing Pluto. Within the range of the 5 elemental realm, no matter what the other party did, he would be watched by the 5 elemental spirits. He also had to divert a lot of his attention to suppress the suppression effect from the realm. As such, the battle ended in less than 5 minutes. The white-robed girl was clearly at ease, and her breathing was long and steady. It was very rare for her to run out of energy within her domain. In the end, she sent her opponent out of the battlefield with a light palm strike. She probably didn't want him to suffer too much of a defeat. There were several heavenly origin gods watching from the spectator stands, so she didn't dare to act too presumptuously. If something were to happen at such a close distance, even the heavenly origin gods of the god realm wouldn't be able to save him. Bang! When the extraterritorial Pluto, oh, that's right, he had the energy of a Pluto king. No one knew what his realm was called in their world, but no one cared. In short, when the Pluto king fell out of the field and convulsed, the spectators cheered. They were even more excited than if they had won the battle themselves. The white-robed girl responded to the earth-shattering cheers with a faint smile. She cupped her hands at the Pluto king and said, "Thank you for letting me win." The Pluto king's face darkened, and he spat out a mouthful of blood due to the intense turbulence in his heart. Then he fainted. The heavenly origin gods of the god realm also stood up with smiles on their faces. They smiled at the spectator stands next to them and said calmly, "Brotherly, I'm sorry." The disciples of the god realm value actual combat. Every one of them grew up bathed in blood and slaughter. They don't hold back when they fight on the stage. How about this? We have a good place to cultivate. We'll go there for a chat, and you can let your disciples cultivate there for a while. How about this? The origin god, surnamed Lee's expression was a little gloomy. He looked at the white-robed girl with a slightly unfriendly expression, then looked at the heavenly origin gods in front of him. He casually waved his sleeve and suppressed his emotions. He nodded and said, "All right, then we won't hold back." Uffed. The little angel couldn't help but laugh when she heard this. Her jade-like hands kept twisting Yin Nuoshing's waist, causing the latter to tremble like he was having convulsions. This girl really didn't know how to control her strength. "You don't plan on interacting with her?" After laughing, she hung herself on his body, and her pleasant laughter rang out from time to time. Yin Nuoshing fell silent for a moment before shaking his head. "There's no need and no conditions. Most importantly, I don't have a corresponding objective. I won't achieve anything by interacting with that little girl. Stop. She hurriedly covered his mouth with cold sweat before he could open the lecture hall. "I brought you out to play and watch the show, not for you to lecture me." Yin Nuoshing faltered for a moment before smiling sheepishly. "I'm used to it." Now that the show was over, many of the onlookers in the distance had already risen into the air and left. The Outer Realm disciples were all carried back. The girl in white also turned around and walked in another direction. He paid some attention to her for a second or two before passing by. Yin Nuoshing casually patted his spotless windbreaker and was about to bring the little angel back when he felt an unusual flow of energy. It was as if the show had been agreed upon and was about to be performed at this moment. That shameless B** starred really did make a move. The heavenly origin gods had been on high alert this entire time. There were countless young cultivators of the divine realm present here, and these heavenly origin gods could easily obliterate these young cultivators into nothingness with just a casual attack. The heavenly origin gods weren't afraid, but these young cultivators weren't, so they had been on guard since a long time ago. That's right, they were on guard. Even so, they were still momentarily stunned. This was because the source of that flow of energy didn't come from this plaza. In other words, it wasn't caused by Lee and the others. It came from outside. Oh no! The heavenly origin gods' expressions changed drastically, and they were just about to rush to the rescue when a burst of energy filled with a boundless aura of destruction tore through the air. Bam! The dark red energy barrier expanded at the speed of light, instantly enveloping the entire plaza. The disciples of the divine realm, who hadn't managed to leave in time, were all stunned. As soon as they turned their heads, they saw a gigantic pillar of energy erupting in the dark sky, accompanied by a violent flash of energy. The entire area was drowned out. These young cultivators had never seen anything like this before, and they were instantly intimidated by the two bursts of energy, causing them to fall to the ground with ghastly pale faces. The two bursts of energy violently collided. No, that beam of energy was blocked by the dark red energy barrier, and then the entire beam of energy shattered into energy crystals that filled the sky. The energy flash that had erupted halfway suddenly stopped, causing everyone present to be stunned. The energy barrier had shattered the beam of energy. This was an extremely rare sight. Normally, it would be the other way around. You dare to play such petty tricks in my territory? Do you not want to live anymore? A deep and hollow laugh reverberated in the minds of everyone on the plaza. It was deep and hollow, and it sounded like the whisper of a demon. Everyone who heard it was shaken, and they almost had a mental breakdown. Even the heavenly origin gods were no exception. They could clearly sense that the spiritual attack was coming toward them, and the expressions of the heavenly origin god with the surname Li and the others changed drastically. They couldn't care less about the situation. They waved their hands and fled with their disciples. However, before they could get very far, a figure that resembled a demon god suddenly appeared behind them. Dark red energy erupted from behind him, and the giant hand reached out toward them. They felt an irresistible and frenzied power. Under the pressure of that energy, they weren't even ants. Even escaping was a wishful thinking. Boom! The explosion of energy on the plaza only lasted for an instant, and in the next second, a frenzied, destructive impact suddenly erupted from a place some distance away from the plaza. Dark red energy soared into the sky, piercing through heaven and earth. Countless people who saw this turned pale. Most people who were swept up in this energy blast would be reduced to ashes. When the heavenly origin gods saw that the heavenly origin gods with the surname Li and the others had disappeared, they all revealed expressions of schadenfreude. All of you get down. The shockwave is coming. If you don't want to experience what it feels like to be swept away, then hurry up and get down. One of the heavenly origin gods instantly appeared in the plaza and shouted. Then he hurriedly condensed an energy barrier. When the heavenly origin gods behind him heard this, they immediately threw themselves to the ground and hugged their heads. The dark red energy shockwave arrived a few dozen seconds late, and a massive impact almost shattered the heavenly origin god's barrier. When the others saw this, they hurriedly stepped in to help. Only then did they manage to withstand the shockwave. After losing its destructive power, the shockwave was just a somewhat exaggerated gust of wind. One or two fearless fellows raised their heads, only to be instantly blown away by the gust of wind. Their hair was slicked back, and their faces were blown askew. The people lying on the ground next to them didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Oh, this energy is... The heavenly origin god, who was the first to erect the barrier, was stunned. Even though he had withstood the shockwave, his hands were still trembling from the impact. The destructive power was a little too much for him to bear. Even though it was just a remnant of the destructive power in the shockwave, he felt that this energy could destroy all life. It's indeed a little too powerful. I've never seen an energy of destruction that could reach such a level. It's as if destruction has been engraved into the laws. Another person also shook his hand vigorously. That's right. The former smiled bitterly and shook his head. What I mean is this energy he is back. Oh, the person that Yi Qing and Qing Jun were talking about, right? Arguan. Oh, sorry, I didn't say anything. The latter said in realization. Halfway through his sentence, he was glared at by the others, and he hurriedly changed his words. Then, the few of them hurriedly scanned the plaza. Since that lord had intervened, could it be that he was interested in the battle of these little fellows? Or could it be that he had discovered something and actually wanted to come over personally? Yin Nuoshing stretched out his right hand and slowly clenched it. An energy storm that had been shrunk countless times erupted from his hand, scattering countless divine particles in the air. He gently blew a breath of air and blew away the last words of the heavenly origin gods. A thoughtful expression flashed across his eyes. "What's wrong? Do you need to ponder for a while after killing a few insects?" He tilted his head and looked at him curiously. Yinuashin glanced at him and narrowed his eyes. "Would you believe me if I said that this was a premeditated attack?" Premeditated? He was slightly stunned. Whether it was that Li guy or the one who had launched the energy attack in the distance, they had all been killed as if they were insects. There was no way out. Even if there was a premeditated attack, there was no need to throw away their lives like this. He had sent out 4 heavenly origin gods. No matter which world he was in, he would be in so much pain that he would vomit blood. He could tell what Yin Nuoshing was thinking with a single glance. He could not help but shake his head. My appearance was unexpected. If I had not come, they would have succeeded. This was indeed premeditated. A premeditated seed against the realm of the gods. It's fine if it succeeds or fails. In the end, the operation with this goal only has a 1% chance of causing unrest in the realm of the gods. The probability does not stack. Yin Nuoshing said softly. This was something he had learned from the souls of the few troublemakers. It was a rather boring matter. What I find laughable is that there are quite a few outsiders involved in this matter. They are not the filthy bastards hiding in the sewers, nor are they the greatest enemies of the void that we are facing. They are just some people who are jealous of the realm of the gods and don't like the realm of the gods. The realm of the gods is infamous, and there are still people who would. Unbelievable. Yin Nuoshing also found it hard to understand. He did not understand what that little fellow was thinking. It was practically jumping between the jaws of the tiger and the tiger. If he was really so unlucky as to provoke that 1% of the realm of the gods, it would cause a riot in the realm of the gods. Especially if the person next to him was hostile, then it would really be over. Did those people not think of the consequences? Consequences? Yin Nuoshing raised his head and looked into the distance. His gaze pierced through the void and looked at the various parts of the realm of the gods. He saw those outsiders wandering the land wantonly, looking for something and digging 3 feet into the ground. They were even more unscrupulous than the original life forms of the realm of the gods. This scene reminded him of the ancient era. At that time, the realm of the gods was also like this. However, at that time, there were not so many worlds watching the realm of the gods, and the realm of the gods was not as powerful as it was today. Those outsiders had really achieved their goal of causing the realm of the gods to plunge into misery and suffering. In the end, Yin Nuoshing burned everything. The fire burned through the void and burned for several years before the dust settled. There shouldn't be a need to do that in this life, right? He did not have a defensive formation. If there was a need, he would have to make preparations. Just as he was thinking about some terrifying things, the Empyrean gods of origin finally found him. They hurriedly bowed, but did not say anything. The little angel noticed his gaze and tugged at his arm. "You've been found." Yin Nuoshing came out of his thoughts and nodded at the Empyrean gods of origin. He turned around and pulled the little angel away from the top of the tower. "Looks like he really is back. Why didn't Qing tell us? He's still busy somewhere else. He probably doesn't know that Lord Feng is back. He suddenly left 76 years ago, and he's finally back today. I feel like I can sleep better now. By the way, where's Lord Hui? Hasn't he woken up yet? I heard that Lord Hui is in seclusion right now. Lord Feng is in charge of the realm of the gods. That's why he hurriedly sent us back to guard the realm of the gods." Hiss! I suddenly remembered that terrible thing just now. Thank goodness Lord Feng was here. Otherwise, those bastards would have gotten away with it. Then, all of them fell silent. Their faces were covered in cold sweat as they hurriedly fled. Even at their age, they could think of many things. If those bastards could cause trouble here, then they would definitely cause trouble elsewhere. No, they had to inform the others as soon as possible so that they could take precautions. Then, all of them would flee faster than light. Just as the Empyrean gods of origin noticed Yin Nuashing, a pair of bright eyes in the plaza also noticed him. However, it was only after noticing the expressions and actions of the Empyrean gods of origin that she noticed him. Now, as the Empyrean gods of origin left one after another, she could not help but blink with a puzzled expression. She did not see that person clearly. She was quite far away, and she only saw him for a second or two before he left. "See you, why are you in a daze? Let's go. While those old men are not here, let's go and rest." Her companions beside her pulled her back, and she quickly came back to her senses. She returned an apologetic smile to them and left the place, looking back repeatedly with every step she took. She threw the curiosity in her heart to the back of her mind. After returning to the small mountain, Yin Nuashing directly contacted I Ching and Lady Ching. Although the two of them were still busy in the void, he was the one who passed the message to them so that they could pass the message to the others. One of them was in charge of the divinity realm, while the other was in charge of the ancient imperial world. They knew better than him who was staying in the divinity realm and who was helping in the void. It was just a small matter of passing a message. However, when I Ching and Lady Ching saw Yin Nuashing's overly serious expression, they knew that this matter might not be as simple as it seemed. When they made arrangements, they deliberately made more arrangements. Then, they could not help but let out a long sigh. Now, one of them was in the middle plane, and the other was in the upper plane. They had not returned to the divinity realm for many years. They did not know how chaotic that place was. However, with Lord Feng in charge, it should not be too chaotic. "Little star, are you worried that what happened in the ancient times will happen again?" Little Angel could be considered as one of the people who understood him the best. Through the things that happened in the past 10 minutes, she had more or less associated some of the bad things. She could not help but ask. Yin Nuashing sighed and nodded. She murmured, "In the ancient times, I've already seen the power of the outsiders. They messed up the entire divinity realm. They were like fleas that found a new territory. In the end, they caused those disasters and made us suffer for tens of billions of years." Although Chu said that the world-class beings did not crawl out during the Dark Age, I am really worried that some strange accidents will happen. After all, Little Angel heard that he did not finish his sentence. She put her hands behind her back and thought for a moment. After all, you don't know what happened in the latter half of the Dark Age. At most, you only know the ending. It is not surprising that something happened in the middle. Yin Nuashing rolled her eyes. She pulled Little Angel into her arms and stroked her silver-white hair. "Little roundworm," he sighed. His gaze became a little deep as he looked outside. He was not worried that those fleas and worms would cause any big trouble in the divinity realm. Given their strength, they would at most cause a small disturbance. The gods in the divinity realm would be enough to suppress them. He was only afraid that those fellows were playing the role of a guide, stirring up trouble behind the scenes and making the already chaotic divinity realm even more chaotic. Then, when the abyssal death mist suddenly erupts, the consequences would be... He did not dare to imagine it. He did not even dare to think about it. He would rather open the creation's barrier to isolate everything and then beat up those outsiders to teach them a lesson. He did not want to think about more complicated things. Sigh. Yin Nuashing let out a long sigh. Right now, I can only hope that those worms will keep quiet for a while. I finally came back to the divinity realm to play and rest. What kind of trouble did they cause? It has been a long time since I caused any major destruction. Recently, my hands have been itching. I don't know if it is because of the heavenly destruction gods summoning, but I have a stomach full of desire to destroy. Little Angel trembled. She looked up and saw that Fongling's expression was a little dark. She could not help but sigh. This guy can't hold it in after a few days without causing trouble. The old Fongling had completely changed. A moment later, Yin Nuashing suddenly let out a long yawn and stretched. "But let's go sleep first. I will just sleep for a while. Remember to wake me up." Little Angel. She took back her words. Fongling's consciousness would still appear from time to cause trouble. No, he was a patient with terminal laziness. There was no cure. Chapter 1281. That small incident gave Yin Nuashing a knock on the head. It was a warning. The timeline resonance was not his idea in the first place, and he did not think of too many consequences at once. No matter what remedial measures he took after that, he just did whatever he thought of and did not have much planning. So when the foreign visitors made some small movements, he suddenly recalled the things that happened in the ancient times, and then his heart was in a bad mood. He even wanted to press those uninvited guests to the ground and beat them up to prevent them from doing something unexpected in the future. According to his thinking, before those fellows became a force to resist the death mist in the abyss, they might have already caused a lot of trouble in the realm of the gods. Yin Nuashing sat cross-legged in front of the pillar of creation, where the pillar of creation was hidden. Dark red runes floated out from his body and formed 4 slender spirals with him as the center. They extended thousands of feet into the sky and then poured into the pillar of creation. Even so, the large amount of runes pouring into the pillar of creation did not cause any changes to the huge black iron pillar. The little angel looked at the runes that were filled with endless destructive power pouring into the pillar of creation. The corner of her eyes twitched, and she felt an inexplicable sense of fear. "What are you doing?" Yin Nuashing opened his eyes slightly, and a silver-white light flashed in his eyes. "I'm doing something inhumane." "Do you remember that I left a gift in the little divine prefecture? A gift for the realm of the gods." The little angel thought for a moment and nodded. It was a gift he left behind in the little divine prefecture when he was still quarter moon. It was full of kindness. It was not a physical thing, but a rule, a kind of concept. It could raise the rule of the realm of the gods to a very high level in a short period of time, and it would last for a very long time. Back then, when he used the observer's authority to create that thing, he had spent a lot of effort. Probably at that time, he had already sensed something, and that was why he left that special preparation. You're not doing that thing too, are you? Even if you're doing something now, you're still in a dream. Whatever you leave behind won't affect your reality. Yin Nuashing smiled. Of course, I didn't prepare that. That was a kind gift. What I prepared was something that I might need in the near future. It's a little toy full of malice. I hope that I won't need it. However, there are no defensive formations in this era. Without that thing, I feel that it will be a little difficult to deal with some special matters, especially the current situation in the God realm. Something special. It tilted its head, and the palpitations in its heart became more and more obvious. However, no matter how hard it thought, it couldn't figure out what Yin Nuashing was doing. Since he mentioned the previous setup in the ancient era, this time should be similar to that time. Perhaps something malicious or evil. It didn't feel like anything good. It sat down next to him and stopped thinking about those questions that it couldn't figure out. When he used the pillar of creation to do something to this world, a chain reaction also appeared in the celestial realm. However, it was only a very small reaction, and it was concealed by the laws. The lower-level life forms would not be able to sense anything out of the ordinary. The heavenly gods would be able to sense it, but the phenomenon was like a flash of white light, disappearing in an instant. The origin-level life forms would be able to sense it, but they would only be able to sense what was happening in that instant. If they missed that instant, they would not be able to see it. An old man standing in the wilderness raised his head and looked at a place far away. A transparent tree was slowly rising from the ground. The tree was as tall as the sky. The trunk was light blue and covered with dark red leaves. The leaves were still spreading and growing, almost covering the entire sky. The whole scene lasted for less than a second, but the old man's eyes had already firmly imprinted the scene. He patted the dust on the ground that he had just fallen on. The God realm also has such an ominous power, and it seems that it has taken root very deeply in this world. His gaze turned in another direction. The outline of a city was faintly discernible. His body flickered, and he disappeared. At the same time, many people in the God realm had discovered this strange phenomenon. The tree was like an illusory shadow that had suddenly appeared that day and disappeared in the next instant. Most of the people who discovered this were origin-level beings. Most of them didn't care about this matter that seemed to have nothing to do with them. There were also a small number of people who used their own methods to transmit this information to others, or directly to the Empyrean god of origin in the god realm. Siyu wandered aimlessly in the vast academy. Occasionally, she would cast a brief glance at some lively places. She stopped for less than 2 minutes and then slowly walked away. Her eyes were a little listless, as if she didn't care what was going on there. She just subconsciously cast a glance at those places. After repeating this for almost an hour, she suddenly woke up. Her eyes became a little confused. Recently, she seemed to have been absent-minded. Since the competition with those so-called Outer Realm disciples 7 days ago, she had shown signs of being absent-minded. She always felt a little restless in her heart. She would suddenly wake up from her cultivation state and find it difficult to enter that state again. She would suddenly stare blankly in the dormitory for most of the day, her mind wandering and her body out of control. The students in her dormitory had been joking with her, saying that their school's flower had also reached the age of yearning. In fact, she knew that was not the case. These days, she was almost unable to think deeply and could not cultivate deeply. It was the same today. Her cultivation state in the morning was abnormally bad. She even canceled the divine spiritual teacher's lecture and slipped out by herself. There were only 2 rare opportunities in a month, and she had wasted it just like that. In the past, she would leave earlier than anyone else. When she slipped out, the divine spiritual teacher cast a concerned look at her. It seemed that he couldn't help but pay attention to a good student who had suddenly left. Fortunately, everyone else was cultivating, so no one would notice her. She felt uncomfortable when she thought that she might be stared at by a lot of people. As she wandered, she unconsciously came to the place where the teachers lived. Siyu stopped and let out a sigh. At least she didn't lose her mind and walk into the residence of one of the teachers. She couldn't help but sigh. It wasn't time for her to be sealed yet. Originally, she wanted to cultivate properly for a period of time to make herself stronger. But now, the realm of the gods was very chaotic. There were many outsiders wandering freely in this world. After that fight with the outsider disciples, she felt a sense of urgency. There would be a day when she would have to leave the academy. At that time, she would have to face this chaotic world head-on. No one would be able to protect her when she was in danger. The sense of danger came from her body. She carried this legendary body. Because of this body, she had been warned by many elders since she was a child. Those words of care and concern were still lingering in her ears and reverberating in her mind. Because of this, she knew a lot of things related to her. The origins of the 5 elements could be robbed. In history, there have been cases where the origins of the 5 elements were robbed. Thinking of this, she remembered the chaotic era. She couldn't help but sigh. To her, being born in this chaotic era was a disaster for those with extremely special bodies. As long as those higher beings had the slightest disloyalty, people like her who had not yet matured were like lambs. Hiss! The sound of lightning cracking through the air echoed in her ears. Siyu, who was in a daze, suddenly came back to her senses. She turned around abruptly. There was an abnormal gray area in the space behind her. It was like the scene of the world fading. The constant turbulence was like a gray flame swaying in that area. It was very abnormal. It only lasted for a few seconds before it disappeared. "It's here again," Siyu murmured worriedly. She had been seeing this abnormality recently. It was as if a gray area had suddenly cracked open in the space, accompanied by the sound of lightning exploding. Sometimes it would be very far away, and sometimes it would be close to her. She still remembered 2 days ago when a gray crack suddenly exploded half a meter in front of her during the teacher's collective lecture. She was so shocked that she let out a small scream. At that time, there were dozens of people staring at her. She reckoned that it would take some time before she could ignore it. However, what she was more concerned about was that it seemed that other than her, no one else could see it. Even that God Realm teacher did not notice it. This made her feel somewhat uneasy. The abnormality that only she could notice sounded very scary. It was completely different from what others said that it would stimulate her. Suddenly, there was some noise that made Siyu, who was in a daze, come back to her senses. The moment she opened her eyes, she saw that she had actually walked into the teacher's area. Moreover, she had walked into the deepest part of it. Students were not allowed to enter this place without the guidance of teacher. She immediately panicked. She turned around and was about to fly away when she heard some conversation. Moreover, she was very concerned about it. She was stunned for a moment. We have just checked the space and rules within a radius of 10 billion miles. We did not find any special signs of destruction. In addition, we have received information from other cities. It seems that the abnormality does not only occur in these places. The phenomena are different. The simplest manifestation is that a gray crack has appeared in space. What's worse is that space has been directly deleted and the rules have disappeared. There are also strange phenomena caused by the abnormal flow of time in a local area. There are many more situations. A few days ago, an eternal-level old man also said that he had observed something abnormal. It seemed to have appeared in the direction of the divine land. However, we sent people from the divine land to look for it. Those guys in the divine land did indeed find something abnormal. They were at the center of the source of the abnormality. However, they did not find anything there. It seems to be just an illusion, a large-scale illusion. But in fact, there was indeed an inexplicable abnormality from that day onward. Those strange phenomena are very weak. Those who are not in the rebirth state basically cannot directly observe them. The largest one was just a city wrapped in an abnormal space. However, the mortals there were still going in and out of it. There were also people in the rebirth state who went to check it out. There was nothing special. It was as if the sky of that space had changed. A few Empyrean gods of origin and the other Empyrean gods gathered here. They were discussing something that sounded very serious. Siyu's heart pounded as she listened. So that was a phenomenon that only the gods could observe. But why? One of the Empyrean gods of origin suddenly looked up. Ahem, that little girl outside the door. What are you doing there? The voices in the room suddenly quieted down. A group of Empyrean gods of origin and the other Empyrean gods turned their heads. They all felt that someone was approaching. However, they thought that it was just a reckless student and did not pay attention to her. They did not expect her to still be standing there and listening. She was slightly surprised. However, she thought that the people inside should have already noticed her. She hesitated for a moment. Then, her jade-like hands trembled slightly as she pushed the door open. When she saw a room full of Empyrean gods and above looking at her, she felt an unprecedented nervousness. The strength and calmness that she used to show in front of others did not work. She slipped into the room like a little girl who had done something wrong. She closed the door and saluted everyone. She did not dare to look at them. Before she could say anything, one of the Empyrean gods of origin looked up. Oh, Siyu, you're a little late. We were just talking. Come over here. She was stunned for a moment. Then, she saw the Empyrean god of origin nod his chin at her. She thought for a moment and slipped over. The Empyrean god of origin said to the others, Master, I Ching mentioned something unexpected a few days ago. I asked Siyu to walk around and see if she could discover any abnormalities in the space. The laws of the five-element constitution are quite compatible with the laws of the realm of gods. Although she is only a Shanming, she might be able to discover something. As soon as he said that, everyone let out a long oh. Another Empyrean god of origin nodded. If that's the case, then tell us what you discovered. There's no harm in repeating it. We just want to confirm some things. Hearing this, Siyu clenched her fists and looked at the person beside her. Seeing him nod at her, she nodded back. She knew that he was trying to help her. She took a deep breath and told them about the phenomena that had been bothering her for a long time. The heavenly origin god originally thought that it was something unimportant, but it turned out that the heavenly gods were listening very seriously, and all of them had thoughtful expressions on their faces. The heavenly origin god who had just spoken couldn't help but furrow his brows. You said that you saw a piece of space slowly fade into gray, and that it didn't suddenly become deathly, right? She nodded nervously. It's like a painting that's been painted with gray. The entire scene slowly lost its color. Furthermore, the gray area gave me a very uncomfortable feeling. It's like it's not a place that I'm familiar with. Hearing this, everyone frowned and couldn't help but whisper to each other. This is yet another new phenomenon. Personally seeing the laws of an entire space slowly fade away. It's probably because the laws have disappeared. The five elements constitution also feels uncomfortable because the laws are missing. Is there anything else? Another Empyrean god of origin looked at Cu and asked, "Probably nothing else?" Cu shook her head blankly. Apart from that, she didn't see anything else. She remembered that the Empyrean god of origin who had just helped her had shown his face during the opening ceremony. He seemed to be called Gu Hong. Right now, he was looking at her kindly and said, "Think about it carefully again. The five elements constitution and the laws of the god realm are much more powerful than you think. Perhaps you've already been affected without even knowing it. Then, does it count that I've been absent-minded for the past few days?" She didn't know whether to laugh or cry. However, when she saw that the Empyrean gods were all nodding seriously, she was stunned. Subconsciously, she said, "It's like I've been in a daze all of a sudden, as if I can't find where I am. My consciousness seems to have drifted to a very, very distant place, and I can't find my way back. I thought it was just because I was a little impatient in my cultivation. If it was anyone else, that might be the case. But it's hard to say for you." Gu Hong sighed. The five elements constitution and the laws of the god realm. You've now reached the sixth cycle of the divine netherworld and formed the five element spirit. Your laws have already been entangled to a certain extent with the laws of the god realm. Your divine laws might also be slowly taking shape. If the laws of heaven and earth change greatly at this time, the first to be affected would be people like you who have constitutions close to the laws. It seems that the situation is a little worse than we thought, the Empyrean god of origin said. It was only then that Cu remembered that they were all present during the competition a few days ago. She couldn't recognize them for a moment. We're not sure if that lord knows about this. 2 days ago, His Excellency I Ching said that he's dealing with some troublesome matters. Right now, we can't contact His Excellency or that lord. It seems that we'll have to make a trip there ourselves. Gu Hong nodded and said, "If that's the case, I'll make a trip there. See you come with me." It's rare for a five elements constitution to appear. It wouldn't be bad if that lord could take care of you. The others nodded in agreement. Siyu had a puzzled look on her face. She only nodded with a dumbfounded expression. When she came back to her senses, only she and Gu Hong were left in the room. It was only then that she came back to her senses. Senior Gu, where are we going?" To Gu Hong only said one word before he froze. He didn't know how to introduce Lord Feng, so he could only say, "We're going to Lord's house. Your matter might involve a lot of things, and you might be affected a little. I'll bring you to him so that he can take a look. Well, there's also another reason." Gu Hong pinched the 30-something-year-old face and looked at Siyu. "Because it's you, we'll have to make a trip there." Siyu was slightly taken aback. She quickly thought of something. "Five elements constitution?" Gu Hong nodded. "Right now, the realm of the gods is in chaos, and you have a rare legendary constitution. I want to bring you to that lord to take a look. If possible, I wanted to take care of you. Of course, I'm not restricting your freedom or anything. That lord is very fair. Although we don't know him very well, he won't force you to do something you don't want to. However, I'm more worried." He sighed and said softly, "I'm worried that even the five-element constitution won't catch his eye." Siyu's face was a mess. On one hand, it was because Gu Hong, the heavenly god of origin, also called that person Lord. On the other hand, she felt like she was being arranged to do something she didn't want to do. In short, by the time she came back to her senses, she had already been brought to the Source Peak region by Gu Hong. In front of her was a continuous stretch of mountains. There was a mountain peak that was particularly eye-catching. It looked like it had been vertically split into two halves. Half of the mountain had been erased from its original position, leaving only an incomplete mountain peak here. Gu Hong brought Siyu closer to the mountain peak. When they were close enough, he reached out and pressed on the space in front of him. Then, an energy barrier suddenly appeared in the space in front of him. Unsurprisingly, He used a unique frequency to knock on the barrier a few times. After that, he took a few steps back and waited quietly. "Come in." 2 minutes later, a faint voice was heard. A hole the size of a person appeared in the barrier. Guhong nodded at Siyu and walked in first. The latter hesitated for a moment. After thinking for a moment, she also walked into the energy barrier. Chapter 1282. The scene inside the energy barrier was no different from what they saw outside. It was still the same mountain that had been cut in half. The part of the mountain that had been cut in half was a smooth cross-section that could reflect the bright sunlight like a mirror. What was different from what they saw outside was that there was a building that looked out of place on the mountain. Next to the building was a small lake that was more than 10 meters wide. On the lakeside, there was a square stone table and 4 stone stools around the stone table. 2 people were sitting there and seemed to be playing chess at the stone table. While Yin Nuoxing was not paying attention, the little angel secretly changed the position of a chess piece. Yin Nuoxing cooperatively looked up at the sky and pretended not to see anything. Then, after a few steps, he forced the little angel to sweat profusely. It was very interesting to see the little angel's uneasy expression again. It seemed that the little angel had cheated a few times, but he still managed to turn the situation around time and time again. Just as the little angel was about to do something, she glanced at something not far away. She pushed the chessboard forward and smiled softly. "I'm not playing anymore. Someone's coming." Yin Nuoxing grinned inexplicably and waved her hand to put away the chessboard. She did not expose the stupid little angel. Then, she moved her seat and said to the guests not far away, "Sit anywhere." Guhong and Siyu landed in the distance and walked over step by step. When he heard this, he nodded and quickened his pace to the lakeside. He saluted the 2 people and said, "Lord Feng." Siyu hurriedly left. Siyu also hurriedly packed her things. Her beautiful eyes secretly peeked at the 2 people sitting in front of her, and then she froze. A few days ago in the square, she had seen the 2 people from Yin Nuo planet. Although she did not have time to see clearly at that time, she was very sure that it was them. That startled her. She felt that they had the same temperament. She did not expect that the person Senior Gu was talking about was them. Speaking of which, she also saw Senior Gu bow to them in the square that day. What kind of existence could make the Empyrean god of origin bow to them? It was still morning, and the weather in Sourcepeak domain was a little gloomy. It was a good time to lazily sleep in, especially for him who had just finished dealing with a big problem a few days ago and did not have time to rest. It was a good time to shake his little girl and find a place to sleep comfortably. Unfortunately, someone in the place he was in charge of was looking for him. Well, he seemed to know what to say. "We are very sorry to disturb you, Lord Feng. However, the recent abnormal situation in the realm of the gods has affected a little too much. We did not dare to make a judgment rashly. We also could not contact Sir Yi Qing and the others, so we could only come to inform you," Guhong said softly. Yin Nuoxing stretched lazily as the little angel poured tea for them. "It's fine. If there's something important, we naturally have to inform you first. I know a little about the situation you mentioned, but let's talk about what you discovered first." "Yes, the situation is like this." Guhong nodded. Just as he was about to report the truth, he saw that the hand holding the teacup had suddenly darkened. He paused for a moment, then looked up. There was a huge sun hanging in the sky. It was 2 huge suns stacked on top of each other, just like in the ancient era. But now the sky was pitch black night. That's right. There was no doubt that night had come, but the sun was indeed shining down from above. The sun was rising from the east, and there were no clouds in the sky. The sky was clear and full of stars. They still remembered that they had just woken up not too long ago. Siyu still remembered that it was not the end of the morning class yet. Yin Nuoxing looked up as well. There was a slight change in his originally calm gaze, but he could not see anything else from the starry night sky. Within the range of his normal senses, everything was normal and orderly. There were no chaotic laws or strange energy phenomena. Guhong stared blankly for a moment. If you include that, there's another strange phenomenon. Siyu, who was drinking tea, was choked by those words that could not be any calmer. She quickly coughed a few times. Then she heard Yin Nuoxing say, it's a strange phenomenon. It's a good day for sleeping. Siyu almost fell off her stone chair. If this were to happen in the deity realm, it would definitely cause chaos. No matter how thick-skinned and mysterious the life forms of the deity realm were, they still had a bottom line. Shouldn't they be thinking of a way to pacify the people right now? As if sensing that Siyu was full of complaints and wanted to vomit, but could not, Yin Nuoxing calmly took a sip of tea. The divine realm has encountered even more bizarre things before. It's just daytime being replaced by polar night, so there's nothing to be surprised about. Although it will cause a little panic when people realize that this phenomenon does not affect their daily routines other than reversing day and night, they won't think about it anymore. At most, they'll just treat it as if they're having an inexplicable night. Let's talk about what you've discovered first. Gu Hong regained his senses and slowly explained what he had prepared to say. Siyu was a little confused as she listened to their conversation. Her tone was calm and without a hint of worry. Of the 4 people sitting here, she was the only youngster among youngsters. The other 3 youngsters had experienced all kinds of storms and waves and felt that their lives had reached a pinnacle where they could not be surprised anymore. Therefore, when they spoke calmly, she felt uncomfortable all over. It's not much different from what I thought. The effect is still within the predetermined range. It's just a little turbulence in the laws, and it's still within the range of my control. Yin Nuoxing said, and took a sip of tea. Don't worry, it'll calm down in a month at the latest. After all, I didn't really do anything that caused such a huge impact that I can't recover from. Gu Hong and Siyu were both startled. Such a statement had a directional meaning. Lord Feng, I might have misunderstood. The current situation in the divine realm was caused by you? Gu Hong's eyes widened, and he was a little stunned. That's right. Yin Nuoxing nodded and said without hesitation, Didn't I say something a few days ago? There will be a small outbreak of chaos in the divine realm in the near future, but it won't have any substantial effect. Everyone should do their own jobs and don't pay attention to it. When necessary, calm the ignorant. See, I still remember what I said that day. Gu Hong and Siyu. Gu Hong scratched his head, and after thinking for a long time, he slapped his thigh in realization. I think you did say that. Siyu's face was numb. She didn't even know what expression she should show. She felt that if she cared too much, her brain would be turned into paste and then extinguished. Yin Nuoxing shrugged and elegantly took a sip of tea. So, don't worry about it. It'll disappear in a few days. Well, didn't say it clearly that day, so I'm prepared to say it again today. If there's nothing else, I'm going to rest. Yawn, I'm tired. Gu Hong smiled bitterly and shook his head. It's fine. So that strange tree was also created by you, Lord Feng. I thought that something had really happened in the divine realm that we didn't know about. Yin Nuoxing was yawning halfway when she froze for a moment. Her jaw was dislocated with crack. She hurriedly pressed it back and widened her eyes. Tree? What tree? Don't spout nonsense. I just messed around in the concept layer of the divine realm. I didn't plant a tree. Gu Hong, who thought that the dust had settled, was stunned again. His eyes widened in surprise. It also appeared when the current chaotic phenomenon appeared. A transparent tree appeared in the divine realm, and it lasted for a short second before disappearing again. After that thing appeared, it was like a signal that a large-scale chaotic event had occurred. Wasn't that you, Lord Feng? It's not my fault. Yin Nuoxing hurriedly shook her head and waved her hands. After a while, she narrowed her eyes. It's not my fault? Is there such a coincidence? He slowly stood up and looked at the distant divine prefecture. His eyes were filled with a silvery white color, and the energy of the observer began to surge weakly. The vision in front of him changed slightly, and he saw something on a deeper level. A huge blue object appeared in his sight. It was a strange tree that stood in the divine prefecture. Just the tree trunk alone was as huge as the entire divine prefecture. The branches, leaves, and leaves that were scattered were only dark red, and they clustered together densely. It looked like a blooming flower, like a huge red umbrella that covered the sky and the earth. A few minutes later, Yin Nuashing sat down with a solemn face. Seeing that, the little angel came up to him with concern. "How is it? Is there anything unusual?" "A foreign object with a huge amount of law fragments, filled with destruction. It's a law fragment that has already been destroyed." Yin Nuashing stretched out his finger and twirled his bangs. His slightly frowning eyebrows and flashing eyes told her that he was feeling a little unhappy. "Perhaps it's because it also belongs to the aura of destruction. The disturbance that I put in the conceptual layer of the law has unknowingly catalyzed it. Now that the strange tree has been tainted with my power, it's a little mutated." Hearing that, Gu Hong also frowned. How could such a thing appear in the realm of the gods? After that, he remembered the old man's warning and could not help but say, "By the way, Lord Feng, I met an extraterritorial being. He told me that this thing is some kind of ominous thing that exists in the void. If it is not dealt with in time, it will be very dangerous. It will first affect the conceptual layer of this world, changing and distorting the laws of the realm of the gods." "Oh, then I know what's going on with those unusual changes that I didn't expect." Yin Nuashing heard that and nodded. "It's probably caused by that thing. To think that I thought that I had done something beyond my deduction and made some strange mistake." The little angel also showed a somewhat puzzled look. "Those things don't naturally exist in the realm of the gods." "Of course not." Yin Nuashing nodded. "Some filthy maggots brought them here." "Oh, these maggots are not the maggots I told you about. A few days ago, I asked I Ching and Lady Green to remind the people of the realm of the gods and the ancient imperial realm that those sneaky outsiders are secretly doing something. They are planning something. They want to eradicate some of the seeds of the realm of the gods. Now, it seems that they have done something even more troublesome. TSK, so troublesome. I can't even sleep properly when I want to. As expected, they should open the barrier of creation and isolate the inside and outside, then kill them one by one. Lord Feng, please don't. Not all of the extraterritorial visitors are evil. Like that old man, he will come to remind us. Lord I Ching also knows a few who sincerely want to stand on the same side as the realm of the gods." Ugh. Gu Hong stopped halfway. He saw the little angel waving her hand and shaking her head at him. He then heard the little angel saying, "Don't worry. This guy is full of resentment and dissatisfaction. That's why he said that." "Well, don't complain. That thing has already caused some minor damage to the realm of the gods. How should we deal with it?" Having said that, Gu Hong pulled Yin Nuashing, who had stood up, to sit down. "It's easy to deal with it. It's easy to just deal with the external side." Yin Nuashing took a deep breath. Her expression was a little serious. "That thing is like a big tree that has already spread its roots into the conceptual layer of the realm of the gods. It even penetrated the void and stabbed part of the realm of the gods directly into the void, causing part of the realm of the gods to leak out. This is just the shallow area. Its biggest root has pierced deep into the conceptual layer of the realm of the gods and is constantly stirring at the bottom. That small movement won't affect anything. But if it continues to wander around there, it will easily pour out the things at the bottom. When that happens, those strange things will pour out into the realm of the gods, and that will be another problem. But the most troublesome thing is the position of the tree crown. The branches and leaves that coincidentally fused with my energy are still absorbing the power of the realm of the gods. Judging from its actions, it probably wants to drain the realm of the gods dry. But this process will take a long time. In short, its existence is to destroy the realm of the gods, right?" It said concisely. Yin Nuashing nodded. She closed her eyes and muttered to herself for a moment. After a minute or two, she nodded and opened her eyes to look at Gu Hong. "You there, help me gather some reliable people. We'll gather at the conceptual layer of the realm of the gods in 5 days. Before that, you should first completely seal the conceptual layer of the realm of the gods from the outside world. Seal the world core as well, and forbid any connection between the world core and the void outside for a month. As for the matter of lumber, I'll do it myself. Gu Hong was filled with respect. He did not mind that Yin Nuoxing did not even know his name, and saluted respectfully. As you command, God. Well, if there's nothing else, you should go back and prepare. I'll also rest for a while. It'll be troublesome work in 5 days. Yin Nuoxing waved her hand. Just as Gu Hong was about to leave, he suddenly saw that Siyu was about to leave as well. He quickly remembered that there was another matter. Wait a moment, Lord Feng. There's one more thing. Yin Nuoxing had just stood up, but she sat down again. Speak quickly. Gu Hong patted Siyu's shoulder and said, This child has the 5 elements body. You see, when she heard that the matter was about her heart that had been numb for a long time suddenly tensed up. When Siyu saw that the Lord was staring at her, she subconsciously tightened her grip on her white clothes. There were a few times when she wanted to lower her head, but she still stubbornly met his gaze. 5 elements body. Well, I saw it the other day. Yin Nuoxing let out a long sigh of relief. Her expression was a little complicated as she looked at that stubborn face. After a while, she shifted her gaze to Gu Hong. I roughly know the reason why you brought this child here. The first generation of the 5 elements body in this era should be the 5th. Perhaps there are others that have not been recorded. Oh, but it's fine. There's no point in mentioning those fellows who have already passed away. Yin Nuoxing stood up and took a few steps toward the young girl. He stopped when he was only 1 or 2 steps away from her. His silver eyes stared at Siyu's pair of pure eyes that contained a faint stubbornness. After a while, he took a step back. She is indeed a priceless treasure. She is a good seedling. In this terrible era, she is correct. However, I can't say if this terrible era will have time to wait for the future. 5 elements body, even the spiritual godly body, cannot change the overall situation. Gu Hong bowed. He did not know what to say. With the situation in the void, whenever this topic was brought up, Lord Feng and Lord Hui would frown. It was not good for him to say anything. With his shallow understanding, he definitely could not say anything to the 2 lords on this topic. They just had to obey orders. For the realm of the gods, for the great Yuan realm, the few of them were silent for a moment. Yin Nuoxing recovered from his daze. He looked at Siyu and said, Then, little girl, what is your wish? It is not an exaggeration to say that the position beside me is a little dangerous. However, standing here is equivalent to standing at the top of the realm of the gods, the top of the order faction. In this position, the position beside me is not like the position beside Hui. There is no glory and honor that the world thinks of. You can only obtain self-satisfaction. No matter what kind of self-satisfaction, there is also an inescapable responsibility accompanying it. Just like the feeling that your body gives you, the ignorant will think that it is a blessing. They will think that it is a special proof, but no one really knows that it is such a position that you are shouldering. It is not just because of the 5 elements body. However, it is useless to say more now. So, make your choice. Yin Nuoxing spread out his hands. Take 1 step forward and you will be at the top of the clouds. From today onwards, you will come into contact with everything that you have never been able to come into contact with before. Retreating is also a kind of courage. No one will blame you for this, and it will not affect your life. You will return to your carefree world and compete for your own life. Siyu clenched her jade-like hands. She was surprised to hear these words. She did not expect this big shot to be as easy to talk to, as Senior Gu said. He was so nice that she did not expect him to be. She closed her eyes and pondered for a long time. Then, she opened her eyes and parted her red lips. An hour later, after discussing with Yin Nuoxing some arrangement for the next few days, Gu Hong got up and left. He could not help but sigh in his heart. The realm of the gods, it was not peaceful for long, and now there was trouble. Oh no, the realm of the gods had never been peaceful. It was better to say that there was always trouble. Then, Lord Feng, this one will take his leave first. In 5 days, I will prepare everything and respectfully await your arrival. After Gu Hong finished speaking, he slipped to Siyu's side and whispered to her, Since you've already chosen your own path, you must prepare yourself mentally. Don't worry, Sir Feng has plenty of time for you to prepare. You'll have tens of thousands of years, or even tens of millions of years to prepare yourself. Don't be fooled by Sir Feng's appearance. He's very easy to talk to. You'll understand once you get to know him better. Also, if you have something in your heart, don't hold it in. It's fine even if you occasionally find him to act spoiled. To be honest, he'll entrust you to Sir Feng, but he might not necessarily treat himself as a strict teacher. Cough. See, you nodded seriously. After pondering for a moment, she could not help but ask, Senior Gu, did I make the right choice? For what you said just now, the five elements body. There is no absolute right or wrong in this world. There is only suitable or unsuitable, fast or slow. You will be able to take fewer detours if you follow Lord Feng, but there are many things that you will have to experience. Those are unchangeable truths. The future, if there is a future, we will all wait for you in the distant future. Siyu's body stiffened slightly. The distant future. Until the distant future. Will there be such a day? Senior Gu did not answer her. He had something to do, so he left in a hurry after saying that. Siyu was in a daze. She left the place she was familiar with and left the familiar daily life. All of a sudden, the world turned upside down. She did not know what to do. When she returned to the stone table by the lakeside in a daze, she saw Yun Nuoxing and the little angel playing chess again. The latter was in the same situation as when she first came in. She was forced to sweat profusely and stared at Yun Nuoxing gloomily. Siyu swayed a little uneasily. She stood half a meter behind Yun Nuoxing and stared blankly at them playing chess. She did not know what to do. After killing the little angel again, Yun Nuoxing comforted the teary-eyed little angel. He then turned his head and smiled at Siyu. Be natural. You don't have to be so nervous. Sit down first and get used to the sudden change. Siyu was stunned for a moment. Noticing his smile, she was even more stunned. Just now, she talked to Senior Gu for a long time with a serious face. Now that she saw him smile, she didn't come back to her senses for a long time. Yin Nuoxing saw that she couldn't move her legs for a long time. He shook his head helplessly and reached out to grab her wrist. He pulled her to the side and pressed her down on the stone bench with both hands. What you need to do is to relax. Relax a little. I'm not your teacher. I'm not your master. I'm just a passerby who you've just met for an hour or two. Well, we can barely be considered friends. She was even more stunned. She subconsciously said, What should I do? Yin Nuoxing pondered for a while. He changed his position and placed the chessboard between him and her. How about we play a game of chess first? Siyu was stunned. Huh? Chapter 1283. She was brought to a place she didn't know by Senior Gu and met a big shot she didn't know, but was said to be very powerful. Then, she became her disciple. Oh no, she had emphasized that it wasn't that kind of relationship, and she didn't intend to be anyone's master. Anyway, it was just a relationship between a teacher and a friend. She originally thought that this mysterious person who she didn't understand would be, perhaps, very strict. Who knew that, after Senior Gu left, the two of them started playing chess and even brought her to the table to play chess, which made her a little unprepared. Then, she was caught off guard and was beaten to a pulp on the chessboard. Under the slight provocation of the other party, she was a little unconvinced and played another game. The result didn't change at all. She was beaten in a fancy way, but she wasn't as nervous as when she first came. She also found that the other party wasn't a high and unreachable person, at least from what she saw at the moment. Unknowingly, the sky brightened up, but it was dusk. Siyu recovered from the state of losing 66 games in a row. Seeing the sun rising and the curtain of night fading, she stood up and stretched. Her slender body drew a beautiful arc, curvy and beautiful. There was a hint of laziness on her young and beautiful face. She couldn't help but say, It's morning. Yin Nuoxing smiled when she heard that. It's dusk. What morning? The day was covered up just now. Siyu was stunned. She thought for a while and remembered that when she came here this morning, she saw that the curtain of night had replaced the day. She couldn't help but say, Oh. Then, she noticed that she wasn't absent-minded today and didn't do anything. She was just here playing chess with this guy who looked like a girl. After knowing each other for a few hours, she finally figured out the other party's gender, which made her unable to react for a while. She never thought that there would be a man with such a beautiful and charming face. Little star, from today onwards, there will be one more person here. How do you plan to settle her down? Her body floated in the air, and her jade-like hand poked Yin Nuoxing's face as she discussed this topic in front of Siyu. Yin Nuoxing pointed at the lakeside and said, "We won't be staying here for long anyway. You can find a suitable place to build a house. You can discuss the details with Siyu. I'm going to take a look at that thing." Oh, the little angel obediently got down from his body and watched him disappear into the void. Then, she walked in front of Siyu and smiled at her. She reached out her hand and pulled her forward. Let's go. Let's go build your house." Siyu was stunned for a moment before she waved her hand and said, "You don't have to go through so much trouble. Just find a random place." The little angel nodded. She did not find anything wrong with it. Yeah, it's just finding a place to build a house. It's no trouble at all. Siyu was speechless. She felt that what she said was completely different from what the little angel understood. She could not help but look at the little angel who was walking in front of her. She had a holy and beautiful face and a noble and sacred aura. It was difficult to look at her directly for a long time. No matter who saw her, they would feel ashamed of their inferiority. It was like a priceless treasure in the world that people could not bear to destroy. She noticed a ring on her finger. Thinking back, it seemed that Yin Nuoxing also had an identical ring on her finger. "Are you his wife?" So you could not help but ask. She had not done anything for the whole day, so she did not have a deep understanding of these two people. Naturally, she wanted to know more about these two people whom she would follow for a long time in the future. The little angel smiled. "Yeah, I guess so. Probably." Siyu's face was a mess. She felt that she could not look at these two people from a normal perspective. There was only darkness in the void. Nothing existed. Eternal peace. This might be the most common understanding of the void for ordinary life. But in fact, there were many unknown activities in the void. The void turbulence was only one of them, but was also the most explosive and the most influential one. Yin Nuoxing's figure appeared from the dark and boundless space. He slowly opened his eyes, and a white light began to emit from his eyes. It gradually spread to his hair and clothes, and in a moment his entire body turned into a brilliant white. Even his eyes were almost pure white. There was only a slight difference between the white of his eyes and the color of his pupils that could be recognized. He did not dare to go to the concept layer at the moment. He carried the seed of the sins of the world with him. Once he went too deep into the concept layer and left the range of the realm of the gods, those things would probably follow his shadow. Even if that was the truth, he did not want to experience that feeling again in this dream. So he ordered Gu Hong to completely seal off the concept layer of the realm of the gods. Firstly, it was to prevent the sins of the world. Secondly, it was necessary to deal with that thing. As for himself, he planned to go to the void to take a look. Ever since he noticed that thing, he felt that there was something in the void of the realm of the gods. It was like a fishbone that was stuck in the void of the realm of the gods. A huge azure tree trunk and many roots were rooted in the void. The red branches and leaves spread out in all directions like a huge paper umbrella. It was that tree. There was no mistaking it. It was rooted in the void of the realm of the gods. Those roots could be seen swaying gently, as if it was stretching. As it streaked across the void, many colors emerged from the void and drilled into the roots. Along the trunk, they were transported to the branches and leaves of the canopy. It was absorbing nutrients. What was different was that it was absorbing the power of the natural order of the realm of the gods. There should be other energies as well, but it was hidden very well. He had already seen its existence with his eyes, but he could not feel any kind of energy flowing here. Taking root in the void of the realm of the gods. This is probably just a layer. There should be something similar in the concept layer. Yin Nuoxing frowned. I have never seen this thing before. The tree was absorbing the natural order and other energies of the realm of the gods. It looked like it was nurturing the dark red branches and leaves, but in fact, only a part of the energy flowed into the branches and leaves. More of it poured into the void. Such a violent absorption of the natural order would also affect the concept layer but the impact was not great. The realm of the gods was very big, and the concept layer would not be destroyed in a short time. Judging by the rate at which the tree was destroying it, it would take decades for it to chisel out enough to cause abnormalities in the space of the realm of the gods that could be seen by ordinary people, and the realm of the gods could still suppress it. The other degree of destruction would probably increase by 3-digit years. Yun Nuoxing's figure floated towards the tree, and in a short while, she arrived under the tree. She had just entered its range and was still very far away from the tree trunk. The area covered by the tree was probably the size of the realm of the gods, the size of divine prefecture. The area it covered was very large, and if it was placed in other worlds, it would probably be larger than those worlds. It could cover an entire galaxy, and it would be an exceptionally obvious existence in the starry sky. Yin Nuoxing stretched out her hand and touched the dark red leaves. She raised her eyebrows slightly. These leaves do contain my energy, but there is no trace of destructive energy. Moreover, my aura is very weak, and there's only a little trace of it left. Didn't you say that it just happened to take a part of your energy when you were doing something to the concept layer? Yes, but, Yin Nuoxing answered subconsciously, and then she was stunned for a moment. When she turned around, she saw the little angel, holding Siyu's hand and standing beside her. There was a soft smile on her pretty face that seemed to be able to light up the void. Didn't I ask you to build a house? Why are you all here? Yes, it's already done. I saw that there was nothing to do, and you didn't say what we were going to do next, so I brought her here. It smiled faintly and nodded. Siyu's cheeks twitched. It only took her 5 minutes to build a house, and then she made some modifications to her liking. It took her less than 15 minutes to decorate the house, and another 5 minutes to arrange everything in the house. After that, they slipped out. To be precise, she was brought into this dark place by the little angel. Is this the void? Siyu looked at the dark space curiously. Even though she already knew of the existence of this place, it was her first time here, and she didn't know much about it. We are in the void of the realm of the gods. The void is also divided into inside and outside, and the world barrier separates the inside and outside. The void we are in now is the place of the realm of the gods. Yin Nuoxing nodded. Since they were already here, he didn't intend to throw her back. What you see in front of you is the culprit that worsened the chaos of the laws of the realm of the gods. Well, it did take a part of my energy. At that time, I was also careless. I thought that no one would do anything in the concept layer, so I didn't monitor the whereabouts of every trace of energy, so I didn't know that it would steal a part of my energy. But it's okay. I still completed my arrangement. As for this tree, Yin Nuoxing loosened his crossed arms, plucked a dark red leaf, and waved it in front of his eyes. After that, he squeezed his palm hard and crushed it into pieces. There is indeed a very weak breath of mine in it. As for the reason, probably indigestion. The little angel's flapping wings froze. So you could not help but roll her eyes. Indigestion of a tree. What kind of situation is that? Is my energy, after all? Not everyone has the fortune to be thin. There are not many in the void who can withstand the infusion of my energy and come out unscathed. Yin Nuoxing twirled a strand of white hair and said, "That thing seems very exaggerated and perverted. It is indeed a little interesting in terms of function, but it does not have much divinity. It is very well hidden, but it will be a disaster if it is discovered. After all, it does not seem that difficult to deal with, and I have countless ways to destroy it. But we can't just burn it directly. It is rooted in the void of the realm of the gods, and also in the concept layer of the rules, so we can only pull it out carefully. So troublesome. Why don't we think of a simpler way?" The little angel's face was covered in cold sweat. She quickly grabbed his arm and shook it. "Stop fooling around. We are still in the realm of the gods. Safety is the most important thing. I got it." Before the little angel could finish, Yin Nuoxing showed a look of realization. What he said made the little angel's face turn gray. It knew that trouble was about to happen again. Once this guy showed such an expression, it was likely that something devastating would happen again. Yin Nuoxing turned around and saw that the little angel was about to cry. He could not help but reach out and pat the little angel's head with a smile. "Don't worry, I won't use anything too dangerous. Pulling it out carefully sounds very careful, but it will take some time. It has too many roots, and I still don't know if the person who planted that tree had one or two or more evil intentions. But as long as one of them is to buy time, we must not let it happen." As he spoke, he reached out and plucked another dark red leaf. Then he covered it with an energy barrier. Then he used a small energy barrier to cover the entire leaf. Look, the big barrier is the scope of the concept layer of the realm of the gods. I just need to wrap the entire tree and destroy that piece of leaf. The whole process will take no more than an hour or two. It has melded itself into the void and the concept layer of the rules. Even if it is completely destroyed, it will only destroy that piece of leaf. It won't. Wait a minute. Yin Nuashing suddenly stopped talking to himself. He frowned and pondered for a moment. He tilted his head and looked below the tree, but he did not see what he wanted to see. This tree has a huge root in the concept layer, and it is directly stirring at the bottom of the concept layer. Then it seems that I have to get rid of that thing first. The energy impact at the bottom of the concept layer could easily push the thing at the bottom to the surface and eventually affect the space of the real world. While he was rambling on and on with himself, the little angel at the side was shocked. Only Siyu had a confused look on her face the entire time. She had no idea what the two people from Yun Nua planet were talking about. The concept layer of rules and whatnot and whatnot. She only felt that it was very complicated. Now, she finally understood the meaning of Senior Gu's words. From now on, she would come into contact with things that she could not come into contact with before. For this, she needed to be prepared to accept everything that she could not accept before. So, it seemed that she needed to empty her mind first. It seemed that she needed a long time to prepare herself mentally. Well, let's talk about it in 5 days. Gu Hong is still sealing the concept layer of the rules, so there's no hurry. Oh, by the way, I have to ask Qing Jun to arrange some people to be on guard in case someone wants to take advantage of the situation. Is the combat power of a world enough to prepare? Yin Noashing was still deep in thought, constantly guessing the purpose of the other party. Although he did not know the true face of the tree, he could think of many things from the understanding he had gained in the last 10 minutes. He was also prepared to deal with each idea. He was not just imagining things. What if one of them really hit the jackpot? This was a game between the gods of origin, and every step had to be taken seriously. Oh, there was one more thing at the end, until he understood everything about his opponent. In the next hour or two, Yun Nuashing took the little angel and Siyu around the void, circling around the tree and leaving some preparations for destruction. He had to be careful when dealing with the concept layer of the rules, but he did not have to care so much about the void. He just had to blow it up. In the next hour or two, the little angel was talking to Siyu about some things that they could only come into contact with at their level. As they talked, Yin Nuashing would also add a sentence or two. These were all things that she could recognize and see. The 5 elements constitution could faintly sense the power of the rules from the divine underworld realm onwards. Yin Nuashing was not afraid that she would not be able to know the truth and be confused. He also had a way to make the impossible possible for her. Elemental annihilation seal. Yin Nuashing softly chanted. The many elemental annihilation runes and charms that he had left behind around the tree all lit up. One by one, they connected to each other to form a huge ring. Then, more rings appeared in other directions. Dozens of black rings with a faint red tinge circled around the tree in the shape of a sphere. A layer of dark red barrier also appeared at the edge of the sphere. The void where the tree is located is now sealed. There is no one in the 100 or 200 worlds around this level of the void. I don't know if they don't want to watch over it or if they don't know. Yin Nuashing clapped his hands, and the white color on his body began to fade. When he said this, his expression was still serious and even a little solemn. The little angel was a little puzzled. Does this count as the enemy's negligence? I do hope that it is true. Yin Nuashing let out a long sigh. But such a large-scale movement, if the enemy is not retarded and is also the Empyrean god of origin, It is impossible for them to leave such a hole. In any case, he knew that his rare rest had come to an end. He had been busy for 76 years in the name of taking the little angel out to play. Not long after he came back and rested for a while, things had happened one after another. The little angel looked at him suspiciously. "I have a feeling that you have a very rude thought just now." No. Yin Nuashing spread his hands and laughed dryly. If he let the little angel know the truth, the two cute little canines might bite two holes in him. After circling the tree twice in the void, Yin Nuashing cautiously left behind more preparations. Then he brought the two people back to the real world through the void. Just as he was about to spend the last few peaceful nights, a dazzling ray of sunlight descended from the sky as soon as he came out of the void gate. He could not help but squint his eyes in astonishment. "It's morning already?" The little angel looked up at the sky. Although it was bright and sunny, there were no stars in the sky at all. In other words, the sunlight had appeared out of thin air and shone on the realm of the gods. It was probably because the daytime had disappeared this morning and was now making up for it. It was a disaster caused by the disruption of the natural laws. The little angel looked at him, smiled helplessly, and shook his head. In other words, they had stayed up all night and then saw the sunrise. Conservatively speaking, many people in the realm of the gods were in the same situation. There would probably be many people complaining. "It seems that the rest you wanted is not going to happen." The little angel shrugged and said, "Actually, it's not that bad. Isn't it just the sun? We can still sleep if we want to." "That's not the same." Yin Nuashing had a mysterious look on his face. Sleeping without night does not allow one to have a soul. That's why. He took a deep breath and stomped his foot on the ground. He opened his mouth and said softly, "I said, it's the middle of the night right now." Boom! There was a huge commotion as if the entire world had been turned upside down. Siyu hurriedly supported the little angel and steadied herself. A short moment later, she saw that the sky had darkened as a silver-blue light sprinkled down from the sky. She hurriedly looked up and saw that it was the azure moon of the realm of the gods. Earlier, the sky had been too bright, so the moon had only been a blurry trace. Now that night had fallen, it truly appeared before her eyes. In other words, the reverse time had been reversed again, using the language of the gods to correct the sky. The little angel shook his head, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. "It doesn't matter." Yin Nuashing shrugged and stretched his body. "Yawn. Anyway, the time hasn't changed. It's just that some of the rules have been corrected, so that things that should have appeared at this time will appear on time. Yawn, go sleep and rest. We still have work to do in a few days. Yawn. There won't be many days of peaceful rest in the future." Siyu watched as he slowly walked into the forest. The little angel greeted her and said, "Then that's all for today. Go and rest. Don't worry, you still have a lot of time to get used to it. If you have nothing to do your own things. Little Star has already left a mark on you, so it's fine if you want to go out for a walk. However, we will be moving in a few days, so it'll be better if you stay by our side. Don't do anything that you can't get away from for the time being." After saying that, the little angel quickened his pace and caught up with Yin Nuashing. Siyu watched as the two of them disappeared into the forest. She bowed slightly and turned around to walk into the little house that belonged to her that she had built a few hours ago. The future. She closed the door and leaned her back against it as she muttered those two words. Her eyes were a little blank, but also a little expectant. Her future had probably undergone some strange changes. What would happen in the future? Chapter 1284. She couldn't sleep. In the middle of the night, Siyu suddenly opened her eyes. She didn't know if it was because of the bed or the place, or because she didn't seem to have done anything today, but she felt uneasy and couldn't sleep. This room was decorated according to her preferences, according to her memories of the boudoir she had left for a long time. It was exactly the same. So, it was probably because of the latter reason she flipped over and got off the bed. After thinking for a while, she simply piled the blankets in a corner and sat cross-legged on the bed, entering a state of cultivation. A faint ray of moonlight shone into the room through the window, reflecting on her graceful figure and smooth skin. A light breeze blew in through the window, causing her fine black hair to dance. She was like a fairy in the moonlight, beautiful and moving. Then, 5 minutes later, Siyu stopped cultivating with a gloomy expression. She was sure that this time, it wasn't because she couldn't concentrate. Ever since she came here, she didn't feel that ethereal feeling that made her unable to concentrate. Being unable to enter a state of cultivation was probably the same reason as being unable to sleep. She did feel a little uneasy, but this time, it might not be because she didn't do anything today. Today's experience was like a dream to her. It was too much like a dream. Perhaps this was the source of her uneasiness. Siyu walked around the room a few times and looked at the bright full moon outside through the window. Mei Mao's eyes revealed some confusion. She then looked at the small lake not far from the room through another window. After hesitating for a moment, she pushed open the door and walked towards the lake. Ding! The crisp sound of the zither drifted out from the 7-foot-long zither that was suspended a foot or two above the ground. The 7-foot-long zither was completely white, so white that it was transparent. The faint indigo moonlight fell on the zither, dyeing it with a constantly floating light blue color. Yin Nuoxing sat cross-legged on the ground, her hands gently stroking the zither. She emptied her mind and played the melody in her mind. The immortal emperor's 9 songs. Oh, in the Dark Age, it was the fairy's 6 songs. The gentle sound of the zither connected the heaven and earth of the Dark Age and danced with the laws. It was unknown which strand of the zither sound triggered the great Tao of heaven and earth, or the disturbance of the great Tao played the zither sound. He was using the realm of the Empyrean god of origin to explore the 6 songs of the immortal spirit. At his level, he wouldn't be affected by the 6 songs of the immortal spirit. The melodious sound of the zither didn't have any sharp feeling, only a feeling as gentle as water. It gradually seeped into one's heart, causing one to involuntarily relax. The little angel had fallen asleep on his lap more than 10 minutes ago. Her pure white wings were sprawled on the ground. She looked extremely peaceful as she slept. Yin Nuoxing narrowed his eyes slightly and let his 10 fingers move naturally with the rhythm in his mind. It was more like he was letting the fairy's tune play through his body. A moment later, he suddenly regained consciousness. His hands pressed on the few gently vibrating strings of the zither, and the sound of the zither suddenly disappeared. The tranquil night suddenly lost some of its flavor, but it was still tranquil and peaceful. He lowered his head and looked at the little angel sleeping on his right leg. After thinking for a moment, he could only turn his head to the left and look at the person gently approaching behind him. Accompanied by the faint moonlight, he could see the person clearly and could also guess some things from her slightly confused eyes. Yin Nuoxing gently brushed the little angel's ear, leaving a soundproof barrier. Then he said, "What's wrong? It's already so late. Why aren't you resting?" Siyu quietly walked out of the forest. She noticed that the little angel was sleeping soundly amidst the sound of the zither, so she did not dare to make the slightest sound. She was wearing a long white robe, and her long hair that reached her thighs was still wet. Under the moonlight, dozens of light spots reflected. She had just come out of the small lake on a small mountain and seemed to have just casually put on a long robe. Her white robe was wet in a few places, revealing the delicate skin underneath. Yin Nuoxing took a few appropriate glances, then looked away and looked straight into her eyes. He tilted his head and said, She did not seem to have thought of what to say or what to do here. She had followed the guidance of a wisp of consciousness and came here. Then, she stood 1 meter away from Yin Nuoxing in a daze. Her jade-like hands were clasped in front of her, and she did not know what to say or do. "I'm a little uneasy." Thinking of Senior Gu's words, she mustered up her courage and said in a voice that was almost inaudible to herself. Her ears were completely red. Yin Nuoxing was slightly stunned and could not help but laugh. After a moment, he put on a calm face and said, "Your emotions are a little messy. There must be something bothering you. Are you worried about the future?" Or do you feel a little lost and don't know how to move forward? Or is it because the road ahead is beyond your control and you can't find the direction to move forward? Sea lowered her head and said softly, "Maybe it's both." Yin Nuashing patted the ground next to him and said, "Sit down and speak slowly." Sea looked at the seat next to him, then looked at his smiling face. After hesitating for a few seconds, she slowly sat down half a meter away from him. She was just an ordinary little girl. Even if she had the five-element constitution, she was still ordinary. However, this definition of ordinary referred to her background and compared to the entire world. Of course, from this standpoint, apart from a few special little fellows, almost all divine underworld tiers were ordinary. Those who could truly enter the void platform were only the origin tier and heavenly god tiers of each world. However, to herself, she was a dazzling pearl. In her environment, the realm she was in, and even higher realms, she was a very dazzling pearl. That radiance like the bright moon could not be concealed. She did not care much about it. She did not care about the fawning men in the academy or the admiring gazes of her companions. She was a little indifferent. Her original path of life was probably to cultivate honestly in the academy until she graduated. Then, she would enter a wider world and get to know more people, join a faction, or travel alone in the divine realm. However, she would eventually get to know one or two fellows who were very special to her. Perhaps they would be companions or companions. She looked forward to it a little. After all, she had been living in the academy until today. Since the day her constitution awakened and the day she stepped into the mortal tier, she had been living in different academies. Occasionally, she would go to other cities for a walk, but it was just a trip. Today, she suddenly went to a place she did not know and directly got to know a fellow who seemed extraordinary. This was the first time. Ding! Yin Nuashing plucked the strings, and the soft sound of the zither drifted out. It was not the 6 songs of the fairy. It was the requiem for heavenly spirits. That's right, it was the tune from the strings, Requiem for Heavenly Spirits. As the name suggested, this little girl really needed to be comforted. Her state of mind was slightly messed up, but this was very normal in all aspects. Whether it was the 5 elements body or something else, she was just a little girl who had not seen much of the world. All of a sudden, she was thrown into a huge world. Standing beside him, the whole world revealed its true face to her. She could see so many things that she did not understand in the past all of a sudden. For a little girl like her, being flustered was a normal phenomenon. However, it was still early, and there was still a lot of time. She still had a lot of time to adapt. She could only see everything from the perspective of an immortal. She had plenty of time to adapt. The melodious sound of the zither drifted in the small forest on the small mountain peak. The breeze brought along the rustling sound of the leaves, accompanied by the reassuring sound of the zither entering Siyu's heart. She closed her eyes tightly. In a daze, she seemed to see a beautiful world. It was colorful and unparalleled. A heaven's road extended from her feet to the distant horizon. On both sides of the road was a gorgeous sea of flowers. In the distance, there was a verdant mountain with a touch of snow covering the top of the mountain. Looking down, there was a strange emerald green. There was no transitional area between the snow and grass. The change happened in an instant. This world was very colorful. It was so colorful that it made her mesmerized. The dim evening sun shone on the left side of the heavens road, and on the right side was the night ruled by the moonlight. The night and dusk were perfectly divided in front of her eyes. It was like a scene that appeared in a child's simple dream. It was a scene that was difficult to see or would never appear in reality. She walked forward in a daze. She didn't know where she was going, but she seemed to understand where she was going. She was immersed in this colorful world. Even if she was alone, she didn't feel lonely at all. His hands danced lightly on the zither strings. Yin Nuashing narrowed his eyes slightly. His breath was leisurely and gradually disappeared. He was in a very good mood when he felt his left hand tremble slightly. He opened his eyes and turned his head. Siyu had fallen asleep and had even fallen on his shoulder. Yin Nuashing thought for a moment. He stretched out his hand, and moved the girl to the ground beside him. He covered her curled-up body under his large windbreaker. He saw that the tiredness and blankness from before had disappeared from her pretty face. There was a peaceful arc on her small mouth. He couldn't help but laugh. This girl, I don't know what kind of sweet dream she had. He sighed softly. He waved his hand, and the white zither in front of him dissipated, turning it into the shape of a scepter. Feng Ling didn't have a zither. It was just the observer's scepter transformed. It was even more powerful than an origin-level divine weapon. After all, the observer's scepter was connected to the rules of the realm of the gods. Quarter Moon couldn't even take it out back then. It seemed that this scepter couldn't be used unless one reached the origin level. Primeval, Yin Nuashing murmured. He was shocked by his own murmur. He definitely hadn't thought about the primeval god before. Why did these two words suddenly appear? He was just thinking about the relationship between this era and the future. If the future had a way to use the origin-level power of this era, the world fragment probably wouldn't be a threat anymore. He had even killed the observer of the realm of the gods who had surpassed the peak of the origin level. Although the observer of the realm of the gods had gone too easy on him, the result was that he had killed the primeval god. This kind of power shouldn't be a problem to deal with the world fragment. After carefully thinking about it, the underworld reappeared at the end of the 139th era after the abortive plan of the Dark Age. It had been 80 eras. During these 80 eras, they definitely had a lot of opportunities. They had survived since the mythological era. There were a lot of primeval gods left behind. However, looking at the Great Yuan realm, the 8 Yuan realm, and the realm of the gods, the rules of these places have been constantly weakening since the Dark Age. In the ancient era, the Empyrean gods were almost extinct. Only a few of them were left. At that time, they could send an origin god to push the realm of the gods into the cycle of reincarnation. Why did they only appear at the end of the 139th era? Some kind of special reason? Some kind of special purpose? Some kind of special time? He wanted to figure it out, but he couldn't figure it out. Just like he didn't know the purpose of the underworld, he also didn't know the purpose of the underworld in that era. There must be a reason for the 80 eras. He suddenly remembered what Qing Chi and the other primeval god had said. The Lord of the Underworld seemed to have done something at the beginning of this era. He seemed to have been severely injured, and it took him until now to recover. Could it be that he was also severely injured at the end of this era and couldn't recover in less than the 139th era? Or something. How could it be? Yin Nuashing smiled bitterly. That was a primeval god. Unless he blew up the realm of the gods, how could he have the power to severely injure him? Since the realm of the gods still existed in the future, this plan was definitely not used. It didn't make sense for an alien to severely injure him. If the primeval god really existed in the Order Camp, he and Hui would have sensed it through the origin mark in the conceptual layer of the Great Yuan realm. Unless the primeval god had been holding back his voice. Ugh. Early the next morning, Siyu woke up under the stimulation of the weak sunlight. She opened her eyes in a daze and saw that she was lying in a black windbreaker that was a little too big. She couldn't help but be stunned. This windbreaker was big enough for her to roll 2 rounds inside. Oh, that's not the point. In a daze, she remembered the scene last night. Her pretty face became rosy at a speed visible to the naked eye under the sunlight. She actually went to a man whom she had just met for a day and acted coquettishly. No, she went to ask for help. Oh, you're awake? The voice that came from beside her gave Siyu a fright. She quickly turned around and wanted to say something. However, when she saw the scene in front of her, she was stunned. She opened her rosy little mouth and didn't know what to say. Yin Nuashing was lying on the cold and hard ground. He tilted his head and looked at her with his hands under his chin. Behind him was a certain little angel with a terrible sleeping posture. She was lying on top of him, and her wings were wrapped around him, making him feel a little depressed. This sleeping posture was definitely not Ming's. It seemed that she was slightly different from Ming. However, the fact that she liked to wrap her wings around him was completely unchanged. This girl's sleeping posture is terrible. Come and help me. Move this girl to the side. Oh, be careful. Don't wake her up for the time being. She still wants to sleep under the morning sun for a while before she's willing to wake up. Yin Nuashing pointed at the person on his back and said in distress. Siyu opened her mouth and looked at the two people who were entwined together. She couldn't help but laugh bitterly, but her wings have already wrapped around you. Yin Nuashing was stunned for a while. After a while, he said embarrassedly, "Oh, then forget it." Siyu stood up with a dry smile. She hugged the windbreaker that was rolled up into a ball in her arms. When she thought of what happened yesterday, her pretty face blushed slightly. She said softly, "Last night, thank you." Yin Nuashing waved his hand carelessly. "All of us have the time to change everything. I know that the path ahead has suddenly changed, and the future is no longer visible. You are a little lost, but that doesn't matter. From today onwards, you have endless time to adapt to all these changes. Whether it's sitting and meditating or following me to witness those things that are still epics to you, it's all the same. You came to me yesterday because you intend to change your latent performance with this mutation. Very good. Maintain this state of mind and don't lose yourself. We have enough time to change everything in the endless time. We have endless time." Siyu pursed her lips tightly and chewed on these words. After a while, she bowed deeply to Yin Nuashing and then carefully retreated into the forest. She seemed to have found a little bit of her future path. However, it was just a little bit. However, it was better than not having a beginning. The path had to be explored bit by bit. Wait a minute, ouch. My waist. Ouch. See, you come over here for a while. She had just thought of something when she heard this slightly funny voice. Her face was in a mess, and she did not know whether to laugh or cry. However, she still turned around and walked back quickly. She saw Yin Nuashing struggling to stand up. However, Miss Angel, who was hanging on his back, was too tightly wrapped around him. She could not help but think that the relationship between these two people was really good. What's wrong? Then she realized that she did not even know how to address this big shot in front of her. Knowing what she was worried about, Yin Nuashing waved his hand and said, "My name is Fengling. However, this stupid angel likes to call me Little Star. There's no problem with either. The last one is not a special name. Many people call me by that name. My name is just a code name." After that, Yin Nuashing took out a transparent crystal ball from his pendant and threw it at Siyu. Siyu was still holding the windbreaker in her arms. She was flustered and did not know how to catch it. The crystal ball fell into the windbreaker and stopped steadily. Then she heard Yin Nuashing say, "I forgot to give this to you yesterday. However, looking at the situation, it seems that it's more suitable to give it to you today. It's nothing special. Just do as you wish. After all, you're someone who stands by my side. How can you not give it some packaging?" Siyu sneaked a peek at the crystal ball, and then she felt dizzy. Tons of information came crashing down on her like a river of stars. She could feel an extraordinary aura coming at her from just a glance. The unimaginably powerful divine aura made her feel suffocated. If there was nothing to block the aura, she might have fainted by now. Nothing special. She laughed bitterly. The things in the crystal ball could turn the divine realm upside down if they were to throw it out. She still did not know who he was. From Senior Gu's attitude towards him, his casual attitude towards these things, and some other details she could not imagine at all. She only guessed that he was very, very powerful. He was so powerful that it was unimaginable. She was still trapped in the prison of her thoughts and could not jump out. She knew this herself. After all, many things had to be prepared from today onwards. These things were myths and legends to her in the past. Even if she wanted to understand them, it would take a long time for her to mentally prepare herself. Stupid angel, you should wake up. Stop pretending to be asleep. I saw your wings move. Stop pretending. Stop tickling me. Let go. Ha ha. Don't blow. She was speechless. She felt that she had to get used to these two people's personalities before thinking about these complicated things. The mighty people did not put on airs. How should she put it? She was not used to it. Chapter 1285. 5 days later, it was the appointed time. The dawn of this day had just arrived. When everything woke up, countless people felt an inexplicable tension. There was a majestic aura permeating between heaven and earth, which made countless people tremble in fear. But when they deliberately tried to find out what was wrong between heaven and earth, they could not feel or find anything. The sun was still hanging in the sky. The reversal of day and night had only happened once, and it did not happen again after it was corrected that night. The creation's barrier has been opened. From now on, all connections between the outside and the outside of the divinity's realm are prohibited. The original God stationed in the divinity's realm is to monitor the movements on ground. No need to report any movements beyond the current chaos. Lady Qing will return to the divinity's realm in 2 hours. The Green Clan and other major clans of the ancient imperial universe have already deployed their forces in various parts of the divinity's realm. The people of the divinity are also ready. The entire divinity's realm is under surveillance. Once there is any abnormal movement, it will be suppressed immediately. The void of the divinity's realm has been completely sealed. The conceptual layer of rules will enter a state of complete freezing in the next 12 hours. The rules of the Great Yuan realm will be cut off from here for a short period of time. The void and the conceptual layer of rules have also been separated. There will be no interference. The void logging team is ready. Lord Feng, give the order, and we will be able to eradicate it completely. Very good. Tighten the surveillance on the ceiling of the void. Don't make any movements first. Wait until I get rid of that troublesome little thing in the conceptual layer of rules. Yin Nuoxing stood in the place between the void and the conceptual layer of rules of the divinity's realm with his hands in his pockets. It was also pitch black before him, but he could sense the endless vitality moving nervously on the surface of this space, each performing their own duties. He walked in the boundary between the two spaces. The energy in his body was constantly pouring out, leaving one rune after another on the boundary. Siyu, who was following beside Yin Nuoxing, looked curiously at the divine patterns that were spreading out from under Yin Nuoxing's feet. They continued to spread into the darkness in the distance. The beautiful patterns seemed to have a life of their own as they underwent complicated changes. They continued to spread and extend. The place behind them was a sea of dark red and silver divine patterns. Siyu felt a little dizzy. Yin Nuoxing glanced at her. The little lass was clearly dizzy from staring at those divine inscriptions, but she was still forcing herself to look at them. Given the uniqueness of her 5 elements physique, she might be able to see something from the divine inscriptions. Even if it was just 1%, it would still be an improvement. Those divine inscriptions contained an extremely powerful amount of divinity, and under his control, they wouldn't have any harmful effects on her. After walking for a while, Yin Nuoxing slapped the head of the little girl, whose body was on the verge of collapsing, and said, "All right, too much is as bad as too little. Stop looking." Siyu's eyes had already turned into mosquito coils. When she heard Yin Nuoxing's voice, she bowed and nodded at the little angel beside her. The two people didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Since there was still some time to prepare, they weren't in a hurry. They stopped in this half layer. Yin Nuoxing half knelt in the dark place and pressed both of his hands on the ground, accelerating the divine inscriptions into the endless darkness. Siyu had yet to recover from her dizziness. When she saw Yin Nuoxing doing that, she curiously leaned over and asked, "That little star, what are you doing?" "I'm using the power of divinity and divine inscriptions to connect the void and the concept layer of laws. When a sealed space on one side collapses, I can pour the unreleased pressure into the other side. Of course, my original intention was to prepare for the concept layer of laws. There will be a huge commotion over there, and if I don't handle it well, there will be a huge impact. If the impact directly hits the concept layer of laws, it will directly affect the realm of the gods. In order to prevent such a situation, I'm pouring the impact into the void. There won't be any problems over there." Siyu shook her head to clear her mind a little. The concept layer of laws. What is that place? It's a dark spatial layer that is actually filled with many things. Yin Nuoxing folded his hands together. The space you know before, the space we exist in, and the space where life thrives is collectively known as the realm of reality. You can think of it as a real space, but that name doesn't mean the other way around. There isn't an equivalent illusory space, and it's fine as long as you don't get misled. Then, the realm of reality is located at the very center, just like how the ocean is 100 meters deep. Above it is the shallow layer, and below is the deeper layer. However, the actual space isn't that simple. It's just to make it easier for you to understand. Deeper into the void, deeper into the void, and deeper into the void. There are no world lights there, and there aren't many things there. Deeper into the sea, and when you reach a certain depth, you will enter the concept layer of laws. It is a space weaved by countless laws, and there are only laws there. Every inch of space represents a law, which is the law that forms the realm of the gods. In other words, it is the cornerstone of the existence of the realm of the gods, and any impact there would directly affect the laws of the realm of the gods. The place where we are now is the boundary between the concept layer of laws and the void. Siyu's eyes became more and more blank as she listened. She felt that she would lose her purpose in life and get lost in this strange space if she continued to listen. But, isn't the void in the shallow layer? Yun Nuoxing shook her head. The void is everywhere. You can see the void in the shallow layer, and you can also see the void in the deep layer. The void is the endless sea in this definition, endless and filled with countless possibilities. The concept layer of laws is in the deep layer of the realm of the gods. Its size may be the same as the realm of the gods, or it may be smaller, or it may just be a space limited by concept. There is no actual size, and size is meaningless. Seeing Siyu's dizzy eyes, Yun Nuoxing stretched out her finger and poked Siyu's forehead. She smiled helplessly. Originally, this is something that only the rebirth realm can come into contact with. It is about the structure of the world itself, and it is indeed difficult for you to forcefully understand it. However, you can't avoid coming into contact with this by following us, so you need to come into contact with it earlier. Siyu shook her head and nodded. She almost smashed her head on Yun Nuoxing's face. Give me some time. I just need to sort it out. I can understand it. After the little angel settled the dazed little girl, she walked to Yun Nuoxing's side and bent down to look at his incomparably serious expression. Then, she looked up at the void. She could sense many high-level existences flying around in the void. They were making arrangements in the void, preparing for the upcoming battle. There were many Empyrean gods. No, they were all Empyrean gods, and there were at least mid-tier Empyrean gods. Two commanders were still rushing back from the void. Such a big operation could not be done without them. Well, actually, those two had volunteered to come back and join the fun. Yun Nuoxing thought about it, but could not find a reason to stop them. Lord Foam, I Ching and I will be back in 2 hours. Please be careful. Lady Ching said through the soul communication. Yes. Go on your way. Yun Nuoxing said faintly, then shielded the soul seeds of Qing Jun and I Ching. He sighed and said, it's just a small operation. Uprooting a harmful parasitic tree is nothing more than a harmless parasitic tree. It can be killed with a single grab and pull. Is there a need to make a big fuss? Everyone was silent for a moment. They looked at each other and then smiled bitterly. When this lord said those words, all the Empyrean gods in the realm of gods had already moved. However, since this matter concerned the realm of gods, they did not complain. Instead, they were very active. When they discussed this matter behind the scenes, they wanted nothing more than to eat the bastard who did this sneakily without dipping in sauce. The void has been stabilized. There are no abnormalities in the pouring channel connected to the concept layer of laws. Yun Nuoxing suddenly said softly. He stood up from the void and informed all the Empyrean gods in the realm of gods with his calm voice. Ready, we can begin the operation. Countless people looked at each other, and their expressions became incomparably solemn. The Empyrean gods guarding the realm of gods released their divine souls at once. Through a special method that Yun Nuoxing taught them, their divine souls merged with the realm of gods so that no one would notice. The Empyrean gods guarding the realm of gods changed their hand seals and sealed off the void layer by layer. Unless they wanted to pour out the power from the other side, this place would not be detected by the outside world. Locking on the laws, sealing, beginning to lock on the target. 2 teams, 3 teams, get ready to destroy the laws and restore order. Let's get to work. Suddenly, everyone who was preparing in the concept layer of laws moved together. Thousands of locking light beams of laws hit the tree rooted in the concept layer of laws at the same time. When those light beams swept across this layer, the entire space suddenly became. Oh, the space here did not move, but they could feel that this world seemed to have been reversed. It was as if thousands of thunderbolts were rumbling, as if a huge earthquake had been triggered in the concept layer. Those light beams were only used to lock on and trace the edges of the parasitic tree. They easily analyzed the ladder and the concept layer of laws and then locked onto the tree. Even if it was only for this purpose and did not have any destructive power, it still contained the power of laws of tens of thousands of Empyrean gods and Empyrean gods. It still affected this space. The sealing of laws has reached 70% of the threshold. Fortunately, Lord Feng strengthened the degree of sealing. Otherwise, it would have affected other places by now. The order has been stabilized. That part of the sealed concept layer has been replaced by a new disguised law of order. No abnormalities have been found in the Pantheon world. The disguised law of order can last for 4 hours. Everyone was speechless. They all wanted to scold that guy. That tree was so damn big. Even if there were many Empyrean gods and Empyrean gods working together to trace the edges of the tree, looking at the progress, they definitely would not be able to finish in 4 hours. How could they not be in a hurry? The barrier of order of the Pantheon world is still there. The creation's barrier can last for 1.5 hours. There should be enough time. Don't worry, safety first. When this voice sounded, everyone was relieved. If that was the case, then they could fight without holding back. There are no abnormalities in the Pantheon world. Perhaps it's because the creation's barrier is sealed. Many people have sensed the abnormalities in the world, but they can't find the source. The outsiders also did not find anything abnormal. They are only slightly vigilant. The situation is fine. Don't worry. We're already on our way. In a while, Lord Qing will be done by the time you arrive. Lord I Ching, slow down. You might be able to finish it in time. Now that there was no emergency, everyone could not help but laugh. I Ching and Lord Qing's complaints came from their souls, which made everyone laugh even louder. Yin Nuoshing listened and did not say anything to stop them. Yin Nuoshing clenched his hands and said, "Calm down. The control of the situation will be divided according to what we just said. Listen to the orders of your team leaders. I Ching, Lord Qing, you guys stabilize the situation. It's time for me to go." Hearing this, everyone bowed respectfully to the void. Lord Feng, have a safe journey. Yin Nuoshing nodded to the little angel, and see you. Let's go. It's my turn. See you hurriedly got up from the void. What are you going to do this time? He clenched his fingers and pointed to the void below. It's time for surgery. The biggest root of that parasitic tree goes straight to the bottom of the concept layer and is stirring there. That thing can't be dealt with like the main part, and it's not within the range of the law domain. I have to do it myself to deal with it. One person can do the work of an entire team. Hearing this, Siyu was stunned. Only now did she remember something. This Lord Feng seemed to be commanding all the heavenly gods and heavenly gods of origin in the god realm. Little star, who are you? Who am I? This question has been bothering me for a while. Yin Nuoshing scratched his head and suddenly thought of a very interesting answer. I'm a housekeeper. Housekeeper. That's how it is. My family is a bunch of little brats. Siyu's face was blank. She did not know what to say. Going from the middle layer to the concept layer only took a single thought. Before Siyu could recover from her daze, the dark space in front of her changed greatly. She once again saw the huge tree in the void. It was very big and filled with a mysterious radiance of energy. This dark space was filled with people. They were all heavenly gods and heavenly gods of origin. Thousands and tens of thousands of energy pillars slowly revolved around the tree. They traced the outline of the tree bit by bit, trying to pull the entire tree out of the concept layer. At first glance, this dark space did not look any different from a void. However, she could clearly feel that the space had changed from the void to the void, too. It was as if there were many things crammed into this place. It gave her a slightly familiar feeling, as if she was facing the God realm. Moreover, as this space shook, the things that filled this space were constantly shaking. The impact on the barrier of the law domain is only 85% of the threshold. Guys, use more strength. This place won't collapse. Nonsense. Your side won't collapse, but our side is collapsing. I'm King afraid that if my hand trembles, the law energy will directly rush to that tree, you know? Yin Washing looked and could not help but say, there's no need to trace the edges precisely. Just make sure that the additional damage does not exceed 10% will be enough. If you want to trace the edges completely, you'll have to stick your entire bodies to it. That will implicate you. Lord Feng, everyone exclaimed and hurriedly bowed. Then, someone shot a beam of light towards the bottom of the tree. Lord Feng, the destination is in that beam of light. With us here, you can rest assured. Yin Nuashing nodded and rushed into the beam of light with the little angel and see you. As the beam of light disappeared from the area sealed by the law domain, everyone respectfully watched them leave. A moment later, they returned to the noisy scene. Did Lord Feng take in a disciple? He even brought a little fellow at the god and underworld level to this place. He really spoils her too much. Sure, he didn't admit that she's his disciple. I heard from that old fellow, Gu Hong, a few days ago that he was the one who recommended her. It said that the little girl has a 5 elements body. That day, Lord Feng even went to watch that little girl's battle. 5 elements body, wow. In the past, when this body reached the god level, it would be that. TSK. This time, with Lord Feng's protection, I'm afraid that a 5 elements god will appear in this world. So in the end, is she a disciple or not? Don't ask. Ask someone who stands beside the observer. It doesn't matter if she's a disciple or not. The observer has already brought her to this place. He's grooming that little girl, so he definitely values her very much. Cough, cough, work. Time is of the essence. Let's not talk about it. Let's enter the next stage. We can begin to deal with the treetop. Under the command of a heavenly origin god, more than 20 high-level heavenly origin gods who have been waiting for a long time released all the energy in their bodies and fused it with the power of laws. Then, the 20 of them spread out and surrounded the dark red area, releasing rays of light that locked onto it with the power of laws. They formed an irregular circle around it and slowly enveloped the entire treetop. Faint vibrations came from behind them and slowly weakened. When they were a certain distance away, even the vibrations disappeared. Yin Nuashing knew that they had left the sealed area. Only then did she emerge from the light. What she saw before her was still a dark space. It was so dark that she couldn't see anything. However, there was a huge object in the darkness. It was an azure pillar that supported the heavens. It was as if it really was floating in a boundless sea. That heaven-supporting pillar was like boundless duckweed. Its roots swayed along with the currents in the sea. However, when it moved, the earth and mountains shook. In terms of the level of laws, the earth and mountains shook. Right now, they were still in the sealed layer of the concept of laws of the realm of the gods. He didn't dare to rashly charge into the concept of laws of the Yuan realm. That would attract some things over. At this moment, the 3 of them were continuously going deeper into the depths of that heaven-supporting pillar. It was as if they were diving into the sea. See, you come here. Yin Nuashing suddenly stopped and pulled the little angel to her side. Then, she stretched out a hand to see you and said, we've passed the middle layer and are about to reach the deeper layer. From now on, seal off your perception of the outside world. Don't stray too far from me. See, you looked at the white hand. It was slender and beautiful like a girl's hand. She hesitated for a moment, then put her jade hand into Yin Nuashing's and gently held it. Yin Nuashing kept staring at the dark area below until she felt a cold little hand in her hand. She grabbed it forcefully. After pondering for a moment, she quickly went deeper into the depths. We've already entered the deeper layer, right? Why haven't we seen the bottom of that tentacle yet? The little angel hugged Yin Nuashing's left arm. Seeing that the azure heaven-supporting pillar was still as huge as before, she was a little confused. Shouldn't the roots be getting thinner and thinner? We're almost there. It's a little more troublesome than I thought. We've already reached the deepest layer. Fortunately, the movement isn't too big, but Yin Nuashing frowned. However, the sea of laws was already shaking. It was rumbling like an underwater earthquake, the prelude to an underwater volcano eruption. Some things have already begun to float upwards. Hearing this, the little angel was a little puzzled. What exactly are the things that you've been talking about that have settled at the bottom of the sea of laws? The old laws that have already been broken, the foreign laws that have invaded. They're all sealed at the bottom of the sea of laws. They're settling and slowly decomposing, but they're all piled up here. It's like prisoners imprisoned in the deepest part of a prison. No one has ever come here to see how the prisoners are doing. Yin Nuashing slowly stopped. The heaven-supporting pillar had also reached the bottom. It waved there like an octopus tentacle, constantly stirring up the deep sea water. This is the bottom layer of the sea of laws in the realm of the gods, a place where nightmares are stored. Yin Nuashing let out a long sigh. The little angel and Siyu couldn't help but cover their mouths, afraid that they would scream out loud. Chapter 1286. The void was not calm. This topic had been talked about several times, and even Yin Nuo planet felt a little sick of it. On the surface, the void was a black mass of nothingness and deathly stillness, but it was just a show of its stillness. In fact, the void was like an ocean. There would be waves on the surface of the ocean, and there would also be surging undercurrents. Occasionally, there would also be countercurrents. Every island and reef floating on the void sea was a world of light. However, those islands were not fixed in a fixed position in the ocean. They were drifting worlds. In this void, there were worlds being destroyed and new worlds appearing all the time. The destroyed worlds would be swallowed by the void and disintegrate on their own. However, when they were destroyed, countless fragments of rules would spill out, like a sea wave spreading in the void domain. Most of them would naturally calm down, while the rest would quietly integrate into the light clusters of other worlds. Those broken fragments of rules would not cause any damage to the light clusters of other worlds. They were like stones thrown into the sea, slowly sinking to the bottom of the sea and settling down. They settled down at the bottom of the sea of rules, which was where Yun Na and the others were at now. In his opinion, this place was more like a tomb that buried rules. Buried with foreign rules, fragments of rules from the light of this world, and the last words of other worlds. The faint echoes that came with the void sea and the fragments of worlds that directly crashed into the void sea would all follow the rules of the world and sink into the void sea. There, they would slowly be broken down and slowly be swallowed up. Or some changes would slowly occur. It seemed to be understandable that there would be changes when many different powers of rules were mixed together, even if they were just fragments of rules. Yin Nuashing waved his hand gently, and a weak power of rules and divinity spread out, canceling out the fluctuations of rules that were about to spread to the place where they were standing. He looked at the darkness below. The azure pillar that supported the sky was constantly stirring at the bottom, but it was moving very slowly. No wonder they did not feel much movement when they came down from above. However, according to the scene in front of them, it seemed that the pillar that supported the sky was being held back by those green things, slowing down its stirring speed. What existed at the bottom of the void sea was a mass of things. A mass of light that was between green and pale green was spread out at the bottom of the void sea. That was an illusion caused by the scene. If the void sea really had a bottom, the place where they were spread out would probably be the seabed. The pale green thing did not look like a living thing. It was more like a mass of sticky, extremely dense liquid light that flickered in and out. It was in the shape of a pool, but it could still move. They could see that its surface was undulating like a piece of mud that was being squeezed by hands. Occasionally, some complicated bright light could be seen wandering inside it, following the green light to appear before the eyes of the trio. What is this thing that looks like a large jellyfish? The little angel could not help but pull Yun Nuoxing's wrist and asked nervously. I have just tried to touch it. Unfortunately, I can't give you an answer because I have never seen such a thing before. Yun Nuoxing shook her head and calmly analyzed. This thing contains a lot of complicated rule power. It doesn't look like a living thing, it doesn't have the characteristics of a living thing, and it doesn't have the breath of a living thing. However, it clearly has the activity of an individual. It has a very weak spirituality and has a strong rule power. That part of the rule power is too complicated and not pure. All kinds of dissociative and mutually exclusive rule power exist in one body. It should have collapsed by itself, but I don't know why it was preserved. Even if you ignore what I said, logically speaking, there shouldn't be life in the void sea. No, it should be said that it can't give birth to life. Life of the origin like the rule power is not born in such a scene. Among the endless rule power here, there are countless rule power that can be found in pairs and in threes. Those fragments should collapse by themselves after coming into contact with the void sea. Even if an unknown object was created out of nowhere like this, they are not. As Yun Nuoxing spoke, his brows furrowed deeper and deeper, and then he became more and more unable to continue. That azure pillar that supported the heavens slowly streaked across their line of sight, and then they saw an even more astonishing scene. There were originally light green things wrapped around the bottom of the giant tree root. As it continued to move, those light green things kept falling off. After it moved a certain distance, the huge objects below it, like a group of thin and small fish, emerged one by one and agilely attached themselves to the tree root. Looking at how they were connected to each other like ropes, it seemed like they wanted to drag the giant tree root down. The latter's huge size and strength were obviously not something they could handle. Many of the light green ropes that had just wrapped around the tree root quickly collapsed. Before those light green ropes were completely broken, more ropes would wrap around the tree root. It was unknown how long those light green objects had existed here and whether they had multiplied. They covered the entire bottom of the sea, like a light green land that was constantly rising and falling, spreading to the end of their line of sight. They could not see the end at all. When Yun Nuo and the others were falling, they saw a faint green light in front of them. They did not expect that the light was such a strange, unknown object. What were those things? Siyu nervously approached Yun Nuoxing. Those light green objects looked beautiful, but they gave her a sense of uneasiness. There was also a faint sense of familiarity among them. She heard from him that this feeling was similar to the feeling she had when she was familiar with the realm of the gods. That was because her physique was quite compatible with the laws of the realm of the gods. It looks like a sea. Yun Nuoxing muttered to himself. She was right. In this dark and boundless place, this light green color connected together, very much like some shallow sea areas. The seawater was green, and those light green objects, that's right, they should be independent individuals, gathered together to form such a large, special landscape. Those light green balls of light were constantly jumping on the surface of the sea, causing it to undulate like waves. In this sea of rules, there was a glimmer of light, and Yun Nuoxing's ears automatically rang with the crashing sound of the rising and falling tides. Yun Nuoxing was stunned. He turned around abruptly, but he didn't see anything. He only saw the little angel, and Siyu's puzzled expressions because of his sudden movement. A moment later, Yun Nuoxing's puzzled expression turned into astonishment. He looked at the green sea below and asked in astonishment, "Are you guys calling me?" A buzzing sound immediately rang in his mind. That's right, it was a chaotic and unformed sound, as if thousands of mosquitoes were buzzing in his ears. However, he could still recognize these special sounds and a special way of communicating. These things are indeed living beings. They don't have any signs of life, and they don't have any formed laws. Their existence is beyond my understanding. Perhaps these things are like life forms of laws that failed to evolve. They're a kind of incomplete, abnormal life form. They are things that I can't understand at all. Yin Nuashing laughed bitterly. You can hear their voices? You and the little angel were stunned. They had never thought that there would be a life form like this. It was different from all the life forms they had seen before. Even if the latter was a strange life form, they were still very surprised. Yes, I can be sure. Although they are very weak and they have a lot of broken laws, they have their own thoughts. Yin Nuashing rubbed his bangs in distress. They were born with the laws of the realm of the gods as the carrier, and those things that settled at the bottom of the sea of laws as the nourishment. They only appeared after a series of wrong and abnormal changes. Because they felt the presence of the realm of the gods on me. They are calling for me. They said that the strange thing is disturbing their peace and is destroying their peace. They can't fight against that tree, so they are asking me for help. Yin Nuashing glanced at the green ocean below and hesitated for a moment. He then turned to the little angel and said, You stay here. I'll go and take a look. After saying that, Yin Nuashing held the two little hands in his hands together. Then he quickly descended and drew an arc in the air. He quickly approached the green ocean. The little angel cried out in surprise. Just as she was about to rush over, she was surprised to see the green ocean surging slightly with the arrival of Yin Nuashing. Perhaps there were thousands of individuals in the ocean. The little angel, you could actually feel a faint thought flowing in the ocean. It seemed to be a little excited because of his arrival. We can only leave it to that idiot now. He smiled helplessly and looked at Mei Mao and Siyu, who were a little worried. He smiled and said, Don't worry. He's a guy who likes to mess around, but he always manages to get out of trouble. Yin Nuashing slowly stopped above the green ocean, and immediately, a 3-meter big green ball of water floated up, allowing Yin Nuashing to land on the ball of water. When he stepped down, it was as if he was stepping on the surface of an ice-cold ball of water, and the latter was also undulating because of his gentle landing. The surrounding green ocean also had a lot of movement because of his arrival, as if it was welcoming him. There was a constant buzzing sound in his head. There were new green water balls. Well, Yin Nuashing thought of them as water balls. The smallest one was 1 meter in diameter to the largest one was no more than 5 meters in diameter. They jumped around him. It was obvious that they were self-active. They could observe, think, and even express their emotions. In just a short while, Yin Nuashing had already heard thousands of worried and complaining voices. Oh, it might not be appropriate to call them voices because they were just meaningless buzzing sounds. What they wanted to express and say was directly transmitted into his mind. They were very interested in Yin Nuashing's arrival and came closer. In the distance, some obviously popped their heads and wanted to come closer. However, they were afraid of Yin Nuashing's power. In the end, they did not come closer. However, there was a ball of water that was really bold. It jumped directly on his head and bounced there. It reminded him of little magic. However, these things did not have weight. He could only feel the sensation of touching them. Other than that, he could not feel anything else. It was probably because of the flaw in the rules. It was hard to imagine that there was such a race in this world that was born without rules. For the time being, he couldn't think of a good name for it. The green ball of water carried him and floated far away. The impact of its huge size was like seeing the pillar of creation in front of him. It was as huge as the pillar of creation. Those broken ropes fell down one by one. A few of them curiously floated to Yin Nuashing and slowly circled around him. He reached out his hand and poked at those water balls. Those little guys seemed to be frightened and quickly went into the group of water balls to hide. He could not even tell which one had fallen down just now. Well, you won't be able to pull it down like this. Yin Nuashing clamped the water ball that was bouncing on his head with both hands. This thing can only be destroyed. With your power, you won't be able to take a bite out of it even if you work hard until the end of the world. All right, I forgot to mention just now. Those water balls wanted to drag the tree root down because they wanted to eat it. After all, it was also a distorted creation that was twisted together by countless law fragments. Perhaps it was also a kind of food for them. He felt that his worldview was being impacted. It had been a long time since he had this kind of feeling. After he said that, the water balls were also impacted. A group of unknown creatures huddled together and discussed in his mind. Yin Nuoxing felt that he was going to faint from the strange buzzing sound. All in all, after a while, he finally arrived in front of the tree root. It was less than 10 feet away, and at this distance, he could clearly see the movement of the tree root. It was as slow as a snail, as if it was entangled by those little green fellows, causing it to move very slowly. According to the original plan, he brought the two girls here and threw down tens of thousands of seals to seal off the area. Then, he used the law's homology to assimilate the tree root into a part of the law of the celestial realm. After that, he would cut out the entire tree root. It sounded safe, but it would create a large hole at the bottom of the tree root. However, there was a sudden situation that he did not expect at all. He was stunned for a moment. This was also considered the boundary of the celestial realm. Although the light green water balls were a little strange, and no one had ever seen them before, they were still a species in the celestial realm. Moreover, they were a miraculous species. If possible, Yin Nuoxing did not plan to do anything to them. He just wanted to get rid of the tree root and give them peace and quiet. Then he had a headache. After thinking about it for 2 minutes, he decided to give up and simply communicate with the sea under his feet. He knew that there was a language barrier, so he directly communicated with his mind. However, he was worried that those guys would not understand what he meant. However, it turned out that his worries were unnecessary. As soon as he communicated with his mind, the light green water balls reacted. Along with the buzzing sound in his mind and the crashing sound of waves in his brain, they surged and gathered in the distance. Not far away, thousands of them shrank their size as much as possible and gathered little by little. The whole process lasted for about 10 minutes. Under the shocked gaze of Yin Nuoxing and the other two people, they shrank into a water ball about 10 feet in size. Yin Nuoxing did not know whether to laugh or cry. He was looking forward to seeing if the entire species would turn into something else when they gathered as one. In the end, it was still a water ball. They hid far away. The blue light they emitted was very conspicuous. Otherwise, he would not have been able to find them. These little guys were too weak and did not have any breath. There were two more beside him. One of them was jumping on his head, but it had quieted down. The other was the one that carried him here. From the buzzing sound just now, he could tell that they wanted to let the two of them be witnesses. In other words, they wanted to watch him cut down the tree. In the end, he did not think too much about it. Yin Nuoxing set up a large number of talismans in this huge area. The surging and powerful divine energy almost drowned this place. If it were not for the fact that this place had been sealed, the primordial life forms in the realm of the gods would have sensed that something was wrong with the whole world. Then they would have noticed that something was wrong with some of the things around them. For example, some strange things appeared in space and disappeared after a glimpse. Yin Nuoxing's preparation was very fast. It should have been more than 2 hours since they dived into this place. Calculating the time, it should be about time for the surface to finish. Of course, it would be safer if they could complete it at the same time. However, even if he did it earlier, it would only cause a sudden impact into the void. Calculating the time, it should be about time. He was also ready. Tens of billions of talismans were now synchronized around the tree root. Without the obstruction of the water blobs, its movement speed had increased by a lot. He also used a few chains of order to tie it in place. Now, he could see it trembling as if it was convulsing. It seemed to be struggling, but it could not move because it was tied too tightly. I Ching, over here, he was ready to connect to the soul seeds of the group of people above. Just as he was about to speak, a wave of sound rushed over. "You son of a bitch, you better stand there obediently. Now is a critical time. I don't care which world you are from. If you're placed here, You better put your hands on your head and lie on the ground. You over there, you won't be able to get out of the realm of the gods, no matter how much you run. I won't explain, but I can send you to hell. The tree canopy seal has been completed. According to the plan, we will divide the area into 2 halves. Master Qing, the destruction of order is ready. According to your orders, we have expanded the channel to the void by 100 times. The second half is almost done. The law destruction formation is ready. The strength of this overlapping space has been strengthened by 10 times. All the energy will sweep back and forth in this area until not even a single strand of root is left. The strength of the nomological domain has been strengthened. Everyone, don't worry about it. Yes. 3, 2, 1. Get ready. Fire. Yin Nuashing was shocked. You guys, boom. Yin Nuashing. Although there was no problem with the sudden change of plan, why were they in such a hurry? Sons of a bitch. We were waiting for you. Ha, little ones, follow me. Kill whoever comes. I will eat both of them. Kill them all. Heavenly gods of the god world, fall back and get into formation. Heavenly origin god, follow the echelon just now. Ancient theocrats, follow the division just now. Hold on until Master Foam is done. The nomological destruction rate has reached 40%. Continue to expand the nomological destruction power. Pour the excess destructive energy into the void. Don't let the nomological concept layer be attacked. Seal the void. Leave behind 1/10 of the people. The rest, follow me to support. This bunch. Yin, you're playing with your life, Bayat. An unknown heavenly origin god's energy has appeared in the god world. It looks like that son of a bitch is attacking the city. However, they obviously didn't expect that the city protection spell formation is at the peak of the origin level. They can't break it. Hold the barrier. Kill them. Those invaders of the god world. Kill them all. In just a few seconds, a large amount of words and information were transmitted back. Yin Nuashing slowly calmed down from his initial shock. He also knew why Qing and Lady Green had suddenly taken such drastic measures. It looked like something had indeed happened. In that case, had the masterminds appeared, or... Yin Nuashing shook his head and took a deep breath. The top was already in chaos, so he didn't need to wait any longer. He turned around and looked at the trembling tree root. It seemed to have sensed that its main body was being destroyed, so it was desperately attacking the chains of order. Sigh, annoying guys. Every time you guys come to cause trouble, I can't have peace. Yin Nuashing let out a long sigh. He waved his hand and caused the hundreds of billions of runes to explode. The brilliant energy light illuminated the entire sea of nomological laws like a sun. He turned around and walked back. I don't care if you're cannon fodder or the mastermind. Since you've disturbed the peace of the god world, then bear the fury of the god world. Chapter 12:87. In the dark, boundless ocean, a dark red light was flashing at the bottom of the ocean. A streak of dark red starlight suddenly appeared in the upside-down sky. Then, the starlight became unusually bright in a few seconds. It was so eye-catching that it could illuminate the entire dark ocean as if it was going to burn the ocean. When the streak of red light approached, it would be discovered that it was shaking non-stop and expanding rapidly along the blue cableway. It was not starlight at all, but an enormous fire of destruction. The destructive noise that could make the void tremble came as expected, accompanied by a destructive shockwave. The impact was confined to an extremely narrow space, and the blockade was almost attached to the azure blue cableway, completely pouring the power of the shockwave onto the latter. The dark red fire turned the entire blockade area into a giant pillar of flame, flying wildly from the bottom of the sea to the top. Its speed could not be expressed in words. Lord Qing, a huge amount of energy has been detected rapidly approaching below. The blockade barrier can't deal with this energy. It's impossible to distinguish. Lord, the damage to the parasitic tree is only 60%. It hasn't been completely destroyed. Should we turn around to deal with the unknown energy or continue to cut down the tree? The destructive energy is rapidly approaching. There are still 10 seconds left. Ching Jun, who was fighting fiercely with someone, was taken aback when he heard this. Before he could think of how to deal with it, 1 or 2 seconds had passed. I Ching, who was commanding the whole scene, was also stunned when he heard this. Then he said happily, "Open a gap in the blockade. Pour all the energy into the void. Those who are stationed in the void, blow up the tree while you're at it. The momentum must be big. It must be exaggerated. Attract all those guys over there. That's Lord Feng's energy. He has succeeded. Lord Feng's energy needs a huge venue to pour out. Destroy that void for me." This sentence was the best stimulant. Everyone burst into ecstasy in an instant, and then, with a whoosh, they rushed toward the enemy. Those who were fighting fiercely in the void also rushed toward the tree. The mighty energy smashed toward the tree rooted in the void from countless angles. In an instant, the energy burst out like a flood toward the azure blue tree. Even its huge size was hit by the impact, and branches and leaves flew in the void. Upon seeing this, the heavenly origin gods of the god realm hurriedly tried to break free from their opponents. However, the heavenly origin gods of the god realm seemed to know that the heavenly origin gods of the god realm were trying to rescue the heavenly origin gods. As such, the heavenly origin gods of the god realm continued to entangle the heavenly origin gods and delay the heavenly origin gods with all their might. These guys are really, really good at acting. I Ching witnessed the entire process and couldn't help but smile bitterly. Whether it was pestering, accidentally being pushed away, or unable to catch up, they were all vividly portrayed. These old monsters who had lived for countless years were all actors. Did these gods live through acting for several lifetimes? Don't open the barrier too early. They don't know what's happening here yet, but they'll know the moment the barrier opens. The enemies are all heavenly gods of origin, and there are too many of them. We're too spread out, so it's not good for us to fight them head-on. Follow the plan and lure them to the void. Lord Feng's energy is coming. The concept layer of laws was trembling. Something huge had disturbed the peace of this place. If the sea of laws was really a sea, then one should be able to see waves rolling up from the surface of the sea. The Empyrean gods of the divine world were shocked when they felt this tremor. Then they were overjoyed. On the surface, they appeared to be a little flustered. They fought while retreating, allowing their enemies to retreat to the void. The pressure exerted by the void forced 60% of the Empyrean gods of origin to retreat to defend. The remaining 40% were still fighting around the tree in the concept layer of laws. Bastards, don't run if you have the ability. Come, your grandfather can still fight a few thousand more rounds. Damn it, I know what you're doing. If you have the ability, stand and fight with me for 1,000 years. Monarch Qing was still shouting wantonly. His roar of laws spread throughout the entire field, causing black lines to appear on the faces of the other side. At this time, it was more important to retreat and defend, so they ignored him. Come, when has your grandfather ever been afraid? You run. If you run again, I'll... Monarch Qing's wailing suddenly stopped, and his expression changed into a smirk. He said softly, "If you run again, you'll die. Little ones, open the gate. Everyone in the central field, retreat. Give up on that tree. Retreat, retreat, retreat." I Ching shouted. The moment his voice fell, the heavenly gods of the gods of the gods were already prepared. They very tacitly retreated to both sides. A curved green barrier suddenly appeared from below and enveloped the tree. Then it extended to the void beside it. Then, a destructive energy that caused the void to collapse and the primordial realm to rumble toward them at a speed that exceeded all senses. Originally, when they saw the people of the gods suddenly give up on the tree, they thought that they were physically exhausted. They sneered and prepared to chase after them to repair it. The next moment, a feeling of utter despair welled up in their hearts. It was as if they felt that the path of reincarnation had cracked open next to them, and a black hand was about to drag them in. They didn't even notice that they were already enveloped by the green barrier passage. Then, a dark red destructive flame broke through the rules and appeared in front of them. Boom! It was as if a towering pillar of fire had suddenly turned and enveloped the remaining 40% of the parasitic tree that had not been destroyed. With just a flash of light, the parasitic tree, together with its roots and leaves, had completely disappeared. Under the soul-stirring gazes of the gods of the divine realm, the unimaginably terrifying energy had turned a corner and whizzed into the distance. They could sense that the unimaginable amount of energy was repeatedly vibrating in the cyan passageway, colliding and rebounding in the passageway. In the end, it transformed into a wave of destruction that whizzed forward. I Ching breathed a sigh of relief. This energy really came at the right time. If all the experts of the divine world gathered together, they would definitely not be afraid of them. But this huge battle had taken up a lot of their energy in all aspects. 50% of all the available forces were used to suppress the outsiders of the divine world. Of the remaining 50%, 30% was in the void, and 20% was in the conceptual layer of the rules. He and Qing Jun had risked their lives to rush back and bring back a part of their forces. Otherwise, the outcome of the battle would have been unpredictable. Hey! Qing Jun's shout rang in his ears, giving I Ching a big fright. He abruptly came back to his senses. Before he could figure out what had happened, Qing Jun's huge figure suddenly flashed in front of his eyes. Qing Jun hurriedly stretched out his hand and pulled him into the distance. A wave of destruction had broken through the cyan barrier passageway, and a large wave had emerged and submerged the place where he had just been standing. Only high-level heavenly gods of origin could resist it. If he had not been pulled away by Qing Jun just now, he would have probably turned into a wisp of ash, just like those guys in the distance who could not even display the phenomenon of the heavenly gods dying. I Ching broke out in cold sweat. He felt that this was the closest he had ever been to death in his life. He quickly turned his head to look at the solemn Qing Jun and said, "Big brother Qing, thank you for saving my life." "No need, no need. You're already in a daze when it's not over yet. If Lord Feng sees you like this, I'm afraid he'll pull you to fill up the void." Qing Jun waved his hand casually, then lectured, "The passageway we hastily built can't withstand the impact of Lord Feng's energy. It's expected that there would be cracks." I Ching smiled bitterly. He was still too casual. Upon closer inspection, there were many cracks in the passageway. The dark red wave of destruction gushed out like a volcanic eruption. He should have been the first to observe this, and then commanded everyone to stay away. Now, it was the others who were cautious enough to sense it in advance and run away. Fortunately, this small episode did not cause any casualties. Otherwise, he would have to apologize in front of Lord Feng. "Let's go and take a look at the void. Let's see what it's like there." Qing Jun waved his hand and flew toward the void. I Ching hesitated for a moment, then quickly said, "After Lord Feng's wave of destruction weakens, check the situation of the tree and strengthen the defense. There may be people lurking here to watch. Don't let your guard down until Lord Feng arrives." After leaving his sentence, he quickly caught up with Qing Jun. The people in the Sea of Rules solemnly cupped their hands and quickly dispersed to deal with their own matters. Someone to repair the blue barrier, someone to check the sealed entrance of the law barrier, and someone to guard against uninvited guests in each group. The division of labor was detailed, and there was a tacit understanding. In the depths of the Sea of Precepts, the Yun Nuo star placed the remaining 3 water spheres in a remote place within the celestial realm. Then, they set up a barrier in the depths of the Sea of Precepts to prevent some ignorant fellows from disturbing this wonderful group of people. When they left, a large portion of the water spheres that had gathered together had begun to split up, and it looked a little more majestic. "You seem to like that strange race a little?" It followed beside her and asked softly. Yin Nuoxing tilted her head, thought for a moment, and smiled. "Because it's very magical. A strange race of life born at the bottom of the Sea of Rules. Yes, even if it's very unusual, even if it's not any race that I know of, it's still a race of life. With such a large number of people, and with a formed and circular way of life, it can naturally be regarded as a race. It's just that I haven't thought of a good name for them yet. When she said the last sentence, Yin Nuashing scratched her head with a headache. She was not good at naming. Those blue water balls had a racial concept, but they did not have a racial name. She did not quite understand the meaning of the name she said. They had their own unique way of distinguishing between each other, so there was no need for such a thing as a name. Anyway, she just felt a headache, and she might as well ignore this matter. So what kind of life are they? The little angel tilted her head in confusion, glanced at Yin Nuashing, and teased, "If they don't have a name, then you can give a name to this newly discovered species. It's not a big deal anyway. Although the name you give is not elegant enough, at least it's authoritative enough." Yin Nuashing's face darkened as she rolled her eyes. After pondering for a long time, she murmured to herself, "Not a life of rules, not a life of origin, caught in the cracks of error, and can't be completely related to order and chaos. Then let's call them concept life. Their existence is a concept. That's all I can think of." The little angel smiled bitterly, and after a moment, she coughed softly and said in a serious tone, "At a certain time in the 51st era of the Yuan realm, the observers of the realm of the gods discovered a strange race that transcended everything. They were overjoyed, and along with their way of life, they named them concept life. At present, this race is the only concept life race in the entire Yuan realm." Yin Nuashing staggered, and her face wrinkled like a bitter gourd. She looked at the little angel with an indescribable emotion. Even though she had thousands of complaints in her stomach that she wanted to vomit, they were all stuck in her trachea, and she could not spit them out at all. Her pretty face turned red. After listening to the little angel, Siyu noticed the title in front of her and could not help but be stunned. Observer, observer. It was a title that even children would hear in the stories of adults. It represented the highest position in the realm of the gods, and it was one of the two priesthoods. She had racked her brains, but she had never thought that the caring big sister, who was always laughing and joking in front of her, would be such a legendary figure. She did not dare to think about it at all, and it was also because of her preconceived thinking. How could such a high and mighty figure appear in front of her? This thought was deeply ingrained in her mind, and she had never thought, if the guardian had appeared in front of her, she might not have been so surprised. In fact, there was not much to say about the guardian, because everyone knew that the guardian was called Hui, and he often appeared in front of the public. Even in the Sourcepeak region, one could hear news about him. As long as it was related to the guardian, many of the stories that seemed to be made up among the people were actually related to the guardian's deeds. What was that saying again? This story was adapted from a real event. In other words, the guardian of the realm of the gods was a public figure that everyone knew. On the other hand, the other priesthood, the observer, had almost never shown his face. No one knew about him, and it was precisely because no one knew about him that he gave everyone a feeling of extreme mystery. There were many very powerful stories that were related to the observer, but without exception, the descriptions were all mysterious. There were even some stories in which the observer was the main character, and they did not even mention him at all. It was easy to imagine how mysterious the observer was in everyone's hearts. Then one day, he appeared in front of her as an ordinary person, and she even played chess with the observer for a whole day. That's right, if she thought about it this way, many things seemed to make sense. It could explain how powerful he was, why he could change the laws of the realm of the gods with a single word, and why he could command the gods of the realm of the gods. "What are you thinking about?" The voice that came from right next to her face startled Siyu. When she turned her head, she saw that Yin Nuashing's face was less than a foot away from hers. She subconsciously clenched her jade-like hand, but it was a warm palm that made her blush. She forgot to mention that the mysterious observer had been holding her hand for more than 2 hours. "No, nothing." Siyu blushed and shook her head. She looked a little dazed. Yin Nuashing saw that something was wrong with her and carefully checked her body. He did not find any signs of her being contaminated by the laws at the bottom of the sea of laws. Only then did he heave a sigh of relief. Siyu struggled to free her jade-like hand. Yin Nuoxing wrinkled his nose, thinking that she was feeling uncomfortable or embarrassed, so he changed his position and held her wrist. Bear with it for a while. We are still in the sea of laws. The energy impact just now has affected this place. The laws that I have are too strong. In order to not affect this place, I have restrained it very well. If I want to protect you, I can only rely on physical contact. Siyu shook her head slightly. She looked at him seriously and whispered, "That, I didn't expect you to be the great observer." Yin Nuoxing was stunned for a moment. He rolled his eyes and said indifferently, "You just found out? Didn't that so-and-so tell you when he brought you here?" Siyu smiled bitterly. Elder Guhong only said that he was bringing me to see a big shot. I have no idea who he is. Well, it doesn't matter. I thought you knew, but it doesn't matter if you don't know. You will find out sooner or later. Now that you know, you shouldn't be so nervous. I'm not some guy with an unknown identity. Yin Nuoxing yawned. I think the little girl will feel even more nervous, Yin Nuoxing said softly. Suddenly, a soft smile appeared on his face. The mysterious observer who is known by everyone in the celestial realm has suddenly unveiled his mysterious veil. The little girl is overflowing with worship. Pain. Yin Nuoxing tapped the head of the little angel with his sword. He glanced at the little angel and looked at Siyu. Nervous? Just be nervous. There's no need to feel anything else. Anyway, well, you'll get used to it. Siyu felt that there was nothing wrong with this sentence. When she thought of the 5 days she spent with him, she suddenly felt less nervous. No matter how mysterious a person was, it was only because he was covered with an unknown veil. When she got to know him little by little, she didn't feel that he was that mysterious and scary anymore. He was no longer that high and mighty figure that she couldn't touch, but a big sister. She felt that she might not be able to change her mind after saying that. Yin Nuoxing pulled the two people away from the depths of the Sea of Laws and returned to the original sealed area. The celestial gods who were still standing guard were shocked when they saw someone suddenly appear. They almost threw their energy at Yin Nuoxing's face. When they saw who it was, they hurriedly retracted their energy and bowed respectfully. Yin Nuoxing nodded and looked around with his divine sense. He waved his hand and said, "The conceptual layer of laws is ignored. Go and suppress those troublemakers in the celestial realm. If there are any troublemakers, kill them if you can't keep them alive. Leave a few alive and find someone with a lot of ideas to interrogate." The group of celestial gods and heavenly origin gods cupped their hands respectfully, then disappeared in a flash. Since Lord Feng said that it was fine, then it was definitely fine. They could leave with peace of mind. In the void, when the dark red destructive flames swept past, the tree and everyone around it were burned to ashes. Those who didn't have time to defend themselves were all pale when they saw the terrifying energy. They were especially scared when they saw that almost all of them had been wiped out. Their morale went through a short period of time, then a short period of time. Knowing that they might not be able to escape, they began to fight with all their might. They ignited their own energy and divinity without caring about anything else. After all, they were all high-level heavenly origin gods. When they went crazy, even the heavenly origin gods of the celestial realm had to be wary of them. Oh-ho, they're all fighting with their lives. Little ones, gather. Focus fire on that guy. Kill them. Green laughed loudly. His aura skyrocketed in just a few seconds, and he led a large group of his subordinates to charge at the rampaging high-level heavenly origin god. Their opponents were all caged beasts, so naturally, they weren't worth fighting one-on-one. They could just use 10 times their strength to forcefully suppress them. After a series of attacks, those desperate fellows were all pressed into the void before they could even do anything. Kill them, kill them. Our captives of the celestial realm are treated very well. That's right. I saw you raise your hand. Sigh. Don't be afraid of being ugly. Think about how much time it took you to climb to this point. What's wrong with a dignified heavenly origin god dragging out an ignoble existence? The dead don't have the right to speak. Oh, that's right. A wise man submits to circumstances. Come, put on this seal. We're very easy to talk to, so we won't beat you up. Little ones, watch this guy, and then beat him to death." The captured heavenly origin god had just breathed a sigh of relief when he heard these words. When he saw the ferocious gazes of the people around him, he broke out in a cold sweat. He was still sealed. "Wait, this isn't what we agreed on. PFFF. Wah, at N% yen. Humph. We're beating you, you bastard. How dare you offend our celestial realm? We'll kill you all." I Ching watched the whole process, his face covered in cold sweat. When Yun Nuoxing rushed over, he also saw the whole process. With a face full of sweat, he said to I Ching, "Is this guy usually like this?" I Ching was slightly surprised and hurriedly bowed and nodded. "Big brother Ching, he's black-bellied. What's hidden under that rough personality is blackness." Several people's cheeks twitched, and they couldn't help but smile bitterly. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.